Chapter 1136. Hearing this, everyone's heart trembled. For this trip to the south, safety was of the utmost importance. They were not naive and unaffected little girls. They understood the cruelty and viciousness of the world and also understood Sun Lang's delicate situation in the court. They had already estimated the risks of this trip. In reality, Sun Lang had explained this to them several times. But there was nothing to be afraid of. Su Qingwan, who was accompanying young Miss Zhao, immediately took a pair of short swords from the wall of the carriage. Young Miss Zhao raised her hand, indicating for her to calm down. As the Lord of Marquis Jinggan Fu, her wisdom and shrewdness had been thoroughly tempered. She already had the calm demeanor of a general who was not afraid in the face of danger. Now that we are already in Hanzhou, Sun Lang's opponent is not an irrational lunatic. Why would he act rashly? He is deeply afraid of Sun Lang. Before he takes care of Sun Lang, he will not do anything unnecessary. Young Miss Zhao calmly said, "So, even if there is trouble, it will be an ordinary trouble. With General Zhao and the elites under his command, General Qi hiding in the shadows to protect us, and 2 blazing angels patrolling the skies, even if someone eats a bear's heart and a leopard's heart and dares to cause trouble, we will not let them return." Zhao Yunlong's eyes flashed with admiration. "That is the reason. Don't worry. This place is not far from the imperial capital. Even if there's an unforeseen event, we only need to defend and wait for reinforcements. With Sun Lang's speed, it will only take a stick of incense's time to rush here from the imperial capital. As long as he comes, no matter how many enemies there are, they will all die." Yin Luo was the type of person who did not add a lot of points to intelligence. She could not participate in this level of conversation. Perhaps because she heard the advice of her elders, she secretly had the thought of competing. In order to show that she was not so useless, she immediately jumped up and said, "I will go put on some armor." Miss Zhang Yin Luo was a disciple of the spiritual Vulture Palace. Equipped with the Jinghong sword of the Imperial Army, her martial arts were considered extraordinary among the younger generation. However, she was still only a young hero. Compared to the big and small cheats of the Empire, she was still far behind. However, when she was traveling in Lihua in her early years, she had already opened up a new path and found her own path. That's right. She joined the ancient mecha style, a sect with a bright future. As a martial artist, she embraced the glory of the divine power of flames and became a glorious Gundam pilot. No, a Sun Holy Knight. It was a very rare rank. In the battle sequence of the Order of Flames, the Sun Holy Knight was already the peak of the Knight class. Those who could receive this honor were all devout priests who were loyal, meritorious, courageous, and strong. They were the pillars of courage of the entire order. Coupled with the extremely xenophobic nature of Lihua, a country where religion and politics were united, it was almost unimaginable that Yin Luo could receive this recognition as a foreigner. Not only did it mean that her piloting skills and combat skills had passed the most stringent test and even nitpicked by the friars, it also meant that she had made a great contribution that the entire order could not say anything about. As a result, the Holy See and the College of Cardinals had broken the unchanging tradition of 1,000 years and awarded the Flaming Sun power suit to a foreigner. So what exactly did Yin Luo do in the Lihua Kingdom that year was still a mystery to this day. Her father, who had good connections and strong curiosity, once relied on the caravans that went to Lihua to inquire about it openly and secretly, but he still couldn't piece together a complete answer. He only knew that his precious daughter was doing very well in Lihua, and had made an unspeakable great contribution, which made the foreign devils have a whole new level of respect for her. As for how significant this change in light was, it was easy to understand just by looking at the smooth smuggling trade, the preferential pass that was never made difficult, and the firearms and ammunition that were delivered every few days. This time, Yin Luo purposely brought her own arsenal with her to the south. Sun Lang seemed to have a special liking for firearms and machinery from Lihua, so he would most likely like it. Besides, Yin Luo also felt that in the treacherous environment of the imperial capital, the ingenious weapons from Lihua might come in handy. As a matter of fact, it would come in handy right now. She opened the door and jumped out, running to the back of the vehicle. Zhao Yunlong remembered something and reminded her loudly. Unless it's an emergency, Sun Lang does not allow you to drive that blazing angel. I know. I'll use the power armor. Yin Luo used her lightness skill, and her graceful body made a beautiful turn in the air before landing steadily on a large vehicle. The girl tied her hair into a ponytail in the air and immediately got into the vehicle. Zhao Yunlong's voice immediately spread throughout the entire convoy. Stop moving. Stay alert. The elite soldiers obeyed the order. The cavalry changed their horses and began to quickly put on their armor. The infantrymen also put on their armor and drew their crossbows, ready to engage the chariot formation at any time. In the orderly preparation work, a large vehicle was pushed open with a bang. A blazing sun power armor holding a chainsword in its right hand, a blazing laser cannon in its left hand, beehive rockets on its shoulders, and long guns and short cannons by its legs jumped out like a madwoman. It looked like it had a lot of combat power. She shouted at Zhao Yunlong, I'll watch over them here. If you need anything, just give me a shout. There are a few cannons on the vehicle, as well as grenades and lava cannons for the Euro cannon. I can put together a few simple launchers in the time it takes to drink a cup of tea. If the enemy is in a tight formation, this will be the most effective. It had to be said that this Yin Luo had a completely different style. Perhaps it was the built-in speakers and the power armor that distorted her voice, or perhaps it was the fact that she specialized in this field that made her particularly energetic. But in any case, when everyone saw a hedgehog-like iron lump waving a super fierce giant sword and a weapon that they did not understand but also seemed to be super fierce and loud, a sense of reverence and awe surged up from the distance. Chao Patao was also shocked for a moment. After a while, he stiffly twitched the corner of his mouth and said, Do as you wish. Yin Luo swung her chainsword twice in the air and took it as approval. Okay, then. She turned and ran to the other military vehicles. It should be noted that she did not look like a young and beautiful girl, but a ferocious and violent metal armor. She ran so fast that the ground shook and the mountains shook. The well-trained horses neighed in fright. Even the experienced elite soldiers could not help but look sideways. Someone muttered, I heard that this is the favorite girl of the commander of war. Such gossip made the elite soldiers join in. The taste of a big shot is really unique. She looks like she can kill a cow with one punch, leaving aside Yin Luo, who was busy setting up firepower positions. Zhao Yunlong gathered the commanders and began to assign tasks. There was a large group of people approaching from the front. They did not know whether they were friend or foe. It was better to be careful and not be careless. After all, the people escorted by the convoy were very important. After everything was arranged, Zhao Yunlong summoned the Imperial Army. Huge wings made of thousands of steel feathers spread out brilliantly. There were two sets of Imperial Army equipment. One was the flying iron wings, and the other was the enemy breaking war spear. They were named after the words unparalleled at the ends of the earth. One was the sky-sea wings, and the other was the end of the earth spear. Under the gazes of the crowd, Zhao Yunlong and his spear tore through the air. A few miles away, a group of cavalry stopped their horses. The general in the lead raised his hand and said, Stop. We haven't reported yet. Don't offend the noble. Vanguard, go and send a message. Just say. There's no need to say anything. The iron wings whistled down. Zhao Yunlong spun the spear in the air and stared at the general with cold eyes. A smile appeared on his cold face. Fatty and long time no see. Android smiled and cupped his fat hands. Sister Yunlong, it's indeed been a long time. Then he shouted, What are you waiting for? Quickly greet the general of Song Province. His subordinates cupped their fists and shouted in unison, Greetings, General. Chao Patao waved his hand and frowned. Sun Lang asked you to come and greet us? Android saw through her thoughts and smiled. I'm not the only one. I'm just the first group. This time, the marshal made it big. It's lively and prestigious. Apart from us brothers Lu Diu, Liang Bourgeois, Chen Xinghua, Yao Jingmao, everyone is here. Zhao Yunlong asked curiously, So many people are here. Why are you the vanguard? Android's face stiffened. He snorted and said, "Of course it's because I'm kind and handsome." His subordinates all held back their laughter. In fact, everyone knew in their hearts that Jinling was a virgin. How could they send those handsome and elegant pretty boys to be the vanguard? They had to send someone who was fierce, ugly, fat, and notorious. Not only did Njua perfectly fit the above criteria, he was also loyal, reliable, and deeply trusted. That was why he had to bear the burden of these people. It was really a sad story. "Don't mention it, don't mention it," Android said. "Can you take me to greet him? Let's say hello and take a look. Let's see what kind of person has charmed our battle marshal." Zhao Yunlong was still floating in the air. He shook his head and said, "You'll know when you see him. Let's go." Dust flew. The military horses docked. The alert was lifted. Android's bear army split into two sides and escorted the convoy. Under Zhao Yunlong's lead, Android passed through the formation of vehicles and came to the core of the convoy. "Which one? Which one?" Android kept looking around with its small eyes. Zhao Yunlong's tone became subtle. "The strongest one." Anjua looked over in shock and saw Yin Luo, who was dressed in a power armor, carrying two cannonballs that were as tall as a person and walking towards two mounds of dirt. There were all kinds of machine parts set up on the mounds of dirt. The flaming sun power armor's cool and domineering design and paint greatly highlighted the violent aesthetics of the Russians, and it was extremely intimidating. Fadian's tone was also a little uncertain. "What is she doing?" "Set up the turrets and prepare to fire." Android's voice was trembling. Who are we firing at?" Zhao Yunlong glanced at him. "What do you think?" "What do I think?" It was obvious that Zhao Yunlong was referring to Anjua and his group. However, Anjua, who had a guilty conscience, felt that Zhao Yunlong's words had another meaning. He said in shock, "She knows? Is that why she brought so many firearms?" Zhao Yunlong was stunned. "Knows what?" Android stared back. "What do you think?" Chapter 1137. "Know what? What do you think?" The two of them looked at each other in dismay after hearing such an abrupt conversation. Android's heart skipped a beat. Looking at Zhao Yunlong's face that didn't seem to be fake, Fadian realized that he had made a big mistake and accidentally spilled the beans. But it didn't matter. He only said one or two sentences. And, as a comrade of Tianyuan who had fought side by side in the past, Android was also very familiar with Zhao Yunlong. Chao Patao was one of the 4 dogs under commander of war. His loyalty was guaranteed. He blinked his eyes and whispered, "It's nothing. Forget what I just said." Before Zhao Yunlong could answer, a cold voice sounded. "What did you say?" Aunt Lu, who he hadn't seen for a long time, stood not far away, coldly looking at Android. Zhao Yunlong was a one-track-minded person. She would be good to whoever was good to Sun Lang. Android could be said to have trusted Sun Lang wholeheartedly, so Zhao Yunlong and Fadian's relationship was also very good. However, Annie Lu was different. Her temper was cold and eccentric, and her words were sharp and vicious. She was a big troll who could exchange insults with Sun Lang. She was also a doctor and possessed the benevolence of a doctor. On the other hand, Anjua's temperament was cruel, and the two of them had a very bad relationship. They were completely at odds with each other and did not interact with each other. Therefore, she did not hold back and stared straight at Anjua. *T. Android's side face was oozing with tiny beads of sweat. How did Lu Shujin's ears become so sharp? The side door of the carriage was opened, and a few beautiful heads popped out. The first to come out was naturally Zhao Feihuang. She had a dignified bearing, a gentle smile, natural and unrestrained. She walked closer and gently bowed. "Mingzhou Zhao Feihuang, Sun Lang's good friend. I haven't asked for this general's name." Although Android was usually arrogant, he didn't dare to act rashly now. First, he had to give face to Sun Lang. Second, because he had just let it slip and almost messed things up, he had to be careful, or else Sun Lang's overall survival plan was ruined by him, the vanguard. When he thought of the consequences, even Android, who was known for his cruelty, couldn't help but shiver. He would rather attack the Sky Demon's stronghold alone than face the Shin's thunderous anger, especially because of this matter. Thus, he said in a gentle voice, "This humble one is in joie. Greetings to the ladies." Zhao Fei Huang was just about to exclaim out of courtesy, praise General An's good reputation, and say a few polite words to improve their relationship. However, before she could speak, a thunderous voice rang out. "Android." That voice rumbled and reverberated like a yellow bell, and also like the sound of metal clashing. It was simply the heaven-shaking roar of the Titan god, causing everyone to tremble. And Zhuo was startled. He only felt that the person who spoke had a loud voice and a vigorous voice that was rarely seen in the world. It must be a wild man with a waist circumference of 8 feet and a height of 10 feet. And from the voice, does he have a grudge against me? He turned his head and felt a fierce wind blowing against his face. A ferocious-looking iron can moved its legs and ran toward him, shouting excitedly, "General and of the Flying Bear Army? Iron Hand slaying sky demon, burning corpses and lighting sky lanterns. I've heard a lot about you." What the F***CK? Android spent about 3 seconds before he forcibly stopped his impulse to attack and successfully connected the ferocious-looking iron monster in front of him with Sun Lang's confidant. Most importantly, what's with her voice? Why is she more manly than a man? The Flaming Sun power armor was equipped with a loudspeaker. It was a standard configuration. After all, it was stuffed in an iron can. The transmission of sound was blocked, and it sounded weak and weak. It was not in line with the values of the Russians and the Lihua nation. Therefore, all the power armors of the church were equipped with loudspeakers that could distort and amplify the voice. This gadget made the battle cry of the knights loud and evil. It was filled with the sonorous and inhuman feeling of metal clashing. Coupled with the already intimidating design and paint of the power armor, it was an absolute deterrent to the stubborn enemies and daring civilians. But Android did not know this. He only heard the loud and evil cry. It was so manly and so ferocious. He seemed to have come to the extreme north where ice and snow covered the sky. There, towers of light rose from the ground. A tower burning with holy fire, exuding light and heat, embraced a settlement and warmed a city. On the frozen land where ice and light intertwined, the barbarian brothers in iron armor roared enthusiastically. It was the warmest greeting from the north. Oh my God! He could not help but picture the honor of Miss Zhang Yinluo in his mind. He also offered his greetings and blessings to the Shinsei general's seemingly distorted aesthetic and taste. The next moment, the iron monster stopped in front of him. 2 gigantic spirit iron gripped Android's hands. The visor of the armor lit up with an evil red light. The man wrapped in the armor said enthusiastically, "Generalin, I've heard a lot about you." The propaganda of the Empire was very effective. It was much better than the propaganda of the other countries. People worshipped heroes, respected heroes, and yearned for heroes. During the war, a lot of heroic deeds and legends were spread all over the world through the mouths of the officials and the people, attracting many hot-blooded men to the battlefield. After the victory, the first thing that the court did was to compile the records of the heroes of the Heaven's Origin sector and compensate the deceased heroes so that the living and the dead heroes could enjoy the glory of victory. As a result, groups of heroes emerged in the Imperium. As a result, groups of fanboys and fangirls emerged in the Imperium. Yinluo was also one of the fangirls. She had already flipped through the Book of Heroes in her family. Although she wasn't very familiar with the deeds of many heroes, she wasn't far from it. Back in Mingzhou, when Zhao Yunlong had just arrived, Yinluo had excitedly circled old Zhao for many days, asking him this and that. Now that she had seen a living hero of the Heaven's Origin sector, how could she not be excited? The only problem was that she forgot to turn off the speaker. The voice at this moment was rather unique. "Generalin, I've heard a lot about you." If she had said it with her own voice, it would have been a sweet, gentle, and adorable fangirl. However, after the voice was distorted and enhanced by the voice changer, the hidden meaning of the words was, "You deceiving ball. Let me weigh your weight." Android, in particular, was under great pressure because he still had something to hide. At this moment, Master Lu added fuel to the fire. Don't be in a hurry to greet her. Just now, General and Chao Patao were whispering to each other, and Sun Lang seemed to be involved. Hey, android, what were you talking about? What do you think Yin Luo knows that she brought a batch of firearms here? Damn it. Commander of War is going to be screwed. Chapter 1138. Master Lu grasped Android's weakness with his astonishing intuition and harsh temperament. He began to interrogate him aggressively. Compared to Chao Patao's unconditional trust and Yin Luo's conditional tolerance, the relationship between Lu Shujin and Sun Lang was more complicated. This complicated old grudge had become a beautiful memory in her heart after Lu Jinyao's transformation. However, this didn't mean that Aunt Lu had become a silly woman who threw herself into Sun Lang's arms. She was still the sharp-eyed and clear-minded troll from before. Hey, android, what did you just say? She went straight to the point. What do you think Yin Luo knows? Why do you bring a batch of firearms over? This woman. And Zhua felt a headache coming on and started to panic. In such a situation, even a veteran general who had been on the battlefield for a long time would panic. When it came to fighting the enemy, even if they had to face the heavenly demon directly, the heavenly demon would still be defeated, and the heavenly demon would also die. The heavenly demon would also be beaten to the point of fleeing in fear. After fighting so many battles, one would know that there was nothing to fear. However, Sun Lang was different. If this matter was messed up, the first thing he would have to face was Sun Lang's anger. Sun Lang wouldn't lose, and Sun Lang wouldn't run away either. Sun Lang was more brutal and terrifying than the Sky Demon. He was also more narrow-minded and vengeful. His strong desire to survive made him think with all his might. He actually came up with something. Under Lu Shujin's gaze, Android sighed deeply and put on a worried expression. I shouldn't have said this. First, he would say some nonsense to stall for time, organize his words, and then arouse their curiosity. This was the art of language that Sun Lang had taught them. As expected, the girls looked surprised. Android didn't give Lu Shujin a chance to ask questions and immediately continued. All of you are the general's beloved. Then, he would flatter them and make them feel better. This way, their intelligence would decrease in a short period of time, and they would lose part of their vigilance and ability to distinguish between right and wrong. This was also taught by Sun Lang. As expected, Miss Zhao revealed a smug expression. Zhao Yunlong laughed like a silly dog. Lu Shujin snorted, and Zhang Yin Luo was still wearing a silverback, gorilla-like armor, and the large steel helmet's two eyes flashed with an evil red light. That's really strange. This guy is indeed a virgin. But why is it that when he talks about these things, he's so eloquent, as if he's an old hand in romance? Android sighed in his heart as he continued. The Marshal has been looking forward to your arrival in the capital day and night. To be honest, he's been so happy that he hasn't been able to sleep for the past 2 days. He restrained his temper and patiently told the story, using some nice words to make the girls feel better. Then, before Lu Shujin opened her mouth to question him, he threw out the final blow. Are you all curious? Since the Marshal has been looking forward to your arrival, and since your feelings are so deep and sincere, why didn't he personally come out to welcome you today? At this point, Android breathed a sigh of relief. After this question was asked, he felt more or less at ease. The girls looked at each other. Zhao Fei Huang smiled considerately and said, a man's ambition is to travel far. He is now an important official in the imperial court, shouldering the responsibility of the country. It can be said that he has a lot of responsibilities, and he has no time to welcome us. There must be something more important that he has to do personally, so he can't leave. He is a good man who doesn't put his work aside for personal reasons. If he had left all the important matters in the imperial court to welcome us, I would have blamed him instead. This was what a virtuous, courteous, and righteous wife would say. But your man, who has a strong sense of responsibility, might not have come himself, but he had privately dispatched troops to welcome his family. He had used public resources for private purposes to such an extent. From the Ministry of War to the Martial Arts Hall, and even the Imperial Palace, everyone had turned a blind eye to this. What did this young lady think and feel about this? Android really wanted to ask this question, but they were surrounded by their own people. If he asked this question, it would be too awkward. Moreover, his performance wasn't over yet. What Ms. Zhao said does make sense, but that's not the only reason. Android sighed and said, "The marshal didn't come, not because he has responsibilities, and not because he can't split himself. It's because he can't come. He can't come." Zhao Feihuang was surprised and asked, "Why is that?" Android didn't say anything. He sighed again and looked worried. Miss Zhao stared at Android's change of expression, and a purple light flashed in her eyes. This was the spiritual energy she obtained from the remnant soul of the demonic tool. Then, the light in her eyes was replaced by a smile, but she still asked anxiously, "Generalin, what do you want to say? Is it?" She bit her lip and said worriedly, "Is it because Sun has a conflict with someone in the imperial court? This Miss Zhao Feihuang is a tactful person. She said what I wanted to say for me. With her as a foil, I won't sound too stiff when I speak again." Android praised in his heart. Then, he said with a pained expression, "I shouldn't have said it. If I did, everyone would be worried, and the marshal would punish me. But since things have come to this, I'll just say it. Ever since the marshal returned to the capital, he has done a lot of things and made a lot of enemies in the imperial court. Recently, he has encountered a lot of troublesome matters. I thought Miss Zhang had brought a lot of weapons to help the general. That's why I asked. Who would have thought that I would let the cat out of the bag?" Sigh. Before he finished, he saw Miss Zhao's eyes turn red. She covered her mouth, and tears rolled down her face like a broken pearl necklace. She looked shocked, frightened, and worried. "Oh no, did I go overboard? I only talked about the situation that Sun Lang is facing in the imperial court. I didn't say how serious it is. This was originally his plan, but it should have been done slowly. Now that the truth has been revealed, these women won't be able to accept it. What should I do? It won't be good if I scare them. And I only said that he has done a lot of things. I didn't say whether it was good or bad. But since these women have hooked up with the marshal, they must know his temperament. Can this Sun guy do good things? If they presume that the marshal has done a lot of bad things in the imperial capital, they will definitely get to the bottom of it. At that time, just occupying the brothel will be enough to kill him 8 times over. No, I have to remedy this." Thinking of this, Android quickly began to patch. Commander of War. Before he could add luster to General Zhang's personality, he heard Zhao Feihuang cry, "I know his temperament. He is upright and plain-spoken, indomitable, and cannot tolerate sand in his eyes. When he sees that he has to settle things, he will definitely not associate himself with the treacherous officials in this filthy imperial court. He will definitely offend a lot of people." Wait. Who is the person you were talking about? Is it Sun Lang? Is it Sun Lang who used to be called Jiang? Is it the former commander of war of Tianyuan? Is it the current General Shansei? Are they talking about the same person? Miss Zhao's next words dispelled Android's doubts. She sobbed, "I didn't want him to come. Sun Lang is such a noble and upright person. He is like a white lotus flower in a pond. Such a person should laugh proudly in the martial world. He should live in seclusion in the mountains. He should be free and unfettered. Why would he throw his pure body into the imperial court? In this place, people eat people. With his upright and indomitable temperament, he will offend people when he enters. If he doesn't want to associate with others, others will deal with him. If he can't stand injustice, others will be involved. He is such a person. Generalin, tell me, did he suffer a lot? Was he targeted by a lot of people for no reason? Was he hurt? Completely. Not at all. He didn't suffer at all. He was so happy that he exploded. Have you heard of the #1 brothel in the world? He took a group of Choba and directly smashed the door and occupied it. The manager of the Copper Sparrow Pavilion was such a noble person, an esteemed guest of the capital, but he was kicked down the stairs and fell to his death. The beauties of the Copper Sparrow Pavilion were the most beautiful in the capital, and they were the dream lovers of many people. The big boss behind the Copper Sparrow Pavilion was the Emperor's family, but in the end, he extorted all of the shares from the emperor's hands. His table manners were as unsightly as a peace show. He was targeted by a lot of people for no reason. If he didn't target others, they would thank him. Was he hurt? He had only returned to the imperial capital for a month or two, but he had dealt with 6 sword saints. The fire sword saint was dead. Hikari Kinsei went crazy. The wood sword saint was branded as a great traitor and was being hunted down. The earth sword saint was directly killed. The water sword saint was secretly detained by him, and the moon sword saint was threatened by him with her brother. Sooner or later, she would be in his hands, including by Yue Wei. The famous 7 luminary sword saint had been taken advantage of by him. Who was hurt more? At the thought of this, even if Android and Sun Lang were on the same side, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. It was like an arsonist who couldn't hold back her smile when she saw Jack Ma. This was a natural person's instinctive discomfort when someone of the same kind suddenly showed off. Speaking of which, Miss Zhao, how could you say such shameless words? It can be seen that you and Sun Lang are a good match. But criticism was criticism, and he still had to say what he needed to say. Although Ms. Zhao's words were uncomfortable, it had to be said. It was exactly what Android wanted. Ms. Zhao is right. He deliberated over his words, endured the discomfort, and said slowly, "The marshal came back to purge the Qing dynasty and help the country. Naturally, he will have to clash with some vermin. The situation in the imperial capital is complicated and his enemies are very powerful. Even the marshal has to deal with them seriously. These days, the two sides have been fighting constantly, and the undercurrents in the imperial capital are turbulent. He has to be fully focused. Well, that was more or less it. This was the marshal general's plan to sell his pitiful state. He would make the situation more dangerous and make the marshal general's battle seem more difficult. Then, he would say something like, "Do you know how hard the marshal general is working?" to make the girls feel sorry for him. In this way, even if the matter was exposed, the marshal general's punishment would be lighter, probably. Chapter 1139. His pitiful plan worked. When Injua told them about the dangerous situation the divine strategist was in, the girls' faces were filled with worry, and they no longer had the mood to pursue the details. They kept asking what Sun Lang had done and what the situation was. What had he done? Robbing brothels, smashing Tensei province, bullying princes, throwing a tantrum in the imperial ancestral temple, bullying empress, bullying the crown prince, bullying his majesty, raping the 7 luminary swordmaster, painting pictures, and so on. That was all he had done. But these things would only lead to death if he told them. Android racked his brains to recall Sun Lang's instructions and pondered over General Shin's ability to lie through his teeth. He answered cautiously. When the general first came to the capital, he made a thunderous strike and exposed the hidden conspiracy of the Sky Demon's remnants in the capital. A large number of corrupted traitors were implicated, so he offended many forces related to their interests and encountered many obstacles and schemes. Those people have a complicated network of forces in the capital and endless tricks. The general was provoked by the Fire Luminary Swordmaster, attacked in the imperial court, slandered, schemed against, misunderstood, and made things difficult for him by the royal family. All these hardships and struggles are no less than what Tianyuan had faced in the past. The purple light in Zhao Feihuang's eyes kept flashing. Under the cover of her sleeves, her nails had already dug into the flesh of her palms. She could not suppress the trembling in her voice. Then how did he survive? Android covered his face. His face twitched fiercely, looking sad and indignant. After experiencing the rapid fluctuation of emotions, he slowly said, he convinced people with virtue and bravely moved forward. That's all. Miss Zhao wanted to ask more, but Android could not stand it anymore. He had performed exceptionally today and even completed a bragging role that was not his. It could be said that he was physically and mentally exhausted, and his physical and mental state had reached their limits. If he continued, he would vomit. I wouldn't be able to tell you everything even if I had a day and a night. I shouldn't be the one to tell you these things. He blocked everyone's path of inquiry and advised, "Now that everyone is here, You can confide in each other later. The joys and sorrows have to be personally recounted in person. Only then can it be considered a complete hearing. This end's narration is unable to show even a fraction of the marshal's hard work. Ladies, please leave your concern and affection for your loved ones. At this point, there was no point in asking any more questions. Moreover, the earth was trembling in the distance. The second wave of people was about to arrive. Android glanced at the women and heaved a sigh of relief. Damn, I've finally dealt with it. There shouldn't be any more problems, right? What followed was a series of visits and greetings. The generals under Sun Lang's command, the close friends who had fought side by side with Sun Lang, and the comrades who shared the same bad taste as Sun Lang. These heroes who had made great achievements on the Tianyuan battlefield arrived one after another. The grand scale, the great treatment, and the great respect they received shocked the mentally prepared girls. Not to mention Yin Luo, who was in a state of fanaticism after seeing so many heroes in the books. Even Zhao Fei Huang, who was always gracious and dignified, was agitated. "Uncles, you're too kind. I'm really flattered." She could not even form sentences properly and even stuttered. "You're all important ministers and generals of the imperial court. You have a high position and a high status. It's really..." The heroes who had once shaken the army and swept across the battlefield looked at each other and smiled. Regardless of age, status, or reputation, they were far superior to these little girls. Going out of the city to welcome these little girls should have been a great humiliation. But today, they came here without the slightest intention of lowering their status or being unwilling to come. We're here today mainly for two things. Soaring General Huang Chao nodded to Zhao Yunlong as a greeting. Then, he looked at Zhang Yinluo and Zhao Fei Huang and smiled warmly. "First, we all want to see what kind of girl can make that fearless fellow so obsessed. Today, we're all here to see who she is." Everyone roared with laughter. Now that all the important people with prestige and status were gathered here, Yinluo's brain finally came around. She hurriedly came out from the armor, revealing her beautiful face and impressive figure. The men's gazes swept past her, and they suddenly laughed in their hearts. It was as if they had already caught the main point of the problem. I roughly know why. They were laughing in their hearts. This dignified virgin of Jinling was probably weaned early when she was young. She was trying to express her ambition. Huang Chao gave the second reason in this kind of low laughter. Second, we should have welcomed him with a grander scene and a more enthusiastic atmosphere. But this is already 2 years late. He should have returned to the capital in a grand manner. It was only recently that he quietly stepped into the capital. Although the imperial court gave him a high position and a generous salary, it still owes him a hero's welcome. 2 years ago, we were all dressed in red and paraded through the streets. The capital became a sea of flowers. There were wild cheers, bouquets of women, and endless light everywhere. But at that time, we didn't know where he was walking alone. 2 years ago, he was missing from the grand ceremony. It is truly a matter of regret for the entire country. Unfortunately, he has returned, but we will never have the chance to make up for the regret of the past. As Huang Chao whispered, the laughter stopped. The cheerful atmosphere became solemn. These words revealed the dark past of the entire country that no one wanted to mention. At least, they shouldn't mention it here. Huang Chao sighed and said helplessly, "So today, I will make up for it to comfort you." For a moment, no one spoke. They didn't know what to say, because the person involved was not here. The generals and ministers who felt guilty couldn't say anything. The girls also didn't know what to say. Words of comfort, words of comfort. Who else had the right to say these words other than the person involved? There's no need to make up for it. There's also no need to make up for it. These crisp words broke the silent atmosphere. The person who spoke was not the eloquent Zhao Fei Huang, but Zhang Yinluo, who had been silent all this time. The girl, who was born in Mingzhou, calmly faced a group of officials of the imperial court who had made great contributions and were far more powerful than the Zhang family. Her tone was neither nervous nor excited, as if she was talking about something that could not be more ordinary. There are some things that have been missed, but there is still a road ahead. She said, "But I believe that one day, Sun Lang will receive the thunderous welcome and support of the imperial capital and even the entire country as a hero. He will definitely do it." It didn't sound like a prophecy. It was just the naive and stubborn words of a little girl who was addicted to love. There was no logic or reason. It was just a lyrical emphasis. A thunderous welcome, warm support, and welcome. How could it be possible? Unless there was another war of heaven's origin. The war was over. The Empire's military power had reached its peak, and its martial arts were above the world. There was no more war that could unite the entire country and fight to the death. There was no more victory that could make the people of the world cry in excitement. There was no more person who could become the hero of the entire country. That was why Huang Chao said that Sun Lang had missed the grand ceremony 2 years ago. Once he missed it, it would be an eternal regret. That kind of scene, that kind of glory, could no longer be reproduced. Because the era of heroes was gone forever. The pure battles where one fought for the country on the battlefield and made contributions on the spot could no longer be reproduced. All that was left was the dirty game of politics in the imperial court. All that was left was the silent erosion of fame and wealth. All that was left was greed driving military wars. All that was left was the manipulation of power through conspiracies. There were no heroes in such an era. That was how it had been. But this little girl sat in front of this group of scheming and wise rulers who had seen through the world that there would be heroes. There would be heroes again. The man who had been absent would once again shock the world as a hero and win the supreme cheers, blessings, and glory. It sounded like a childish remark that could be dismissed with a smile. But when they looked at that serious face, they couldn't help but be moved. Because several years ago, in the killing array of iron and blood in the military camp, they had seen a similar face. No, it was a similar expression. She was persistent and stubborn, believing in what she believed in. They now knew why Sun Lang had never forgotten this girl. Chapter 1140. The atmosphere was strangely silent. All the officials were in a daze for a moment. From this stubborn little girl in front of them, they saw the shadow of someone in the past. That person used to be like this girl, naive and stubborn. He firmly believed in what he believed in, unwavering and moving forward. It was as if nothing could change him. But in the end, he was still changed. No matter how bright the sword was, there was still the risk of falling into the darkness. Because in this world, there was still more darkness. Because everyone had their own selfish desires, and because the desire for power bred evil. Therefore, the former hero disappeared without a trace in the great desolate mountain shrouded in mystery. When he returned again, the chilling coldness lingered in his eyes, sealing the flames that could burn everything. The former commander of the glorious 6 armies had turned from a hero to an avenger. The man of the past could never return to the past. And this girl in front of them, what would happen after a moment of silence? Huang Chao slowly said, "Miss, you are very confident." Yinluo glanced at Android and smiled. "General, and just said that after Sun Lang returned to the capital, he has been fighting against the evil forces. In order to uncover the evil forces that have entrenched themselves in the capital and colluded with the Sky Demon, he has been fighting tirelessly. Everything is for the benefit of the country. He will not choose to advance or retreat because of his own gains and losses." Her face was filled with pride, and her tone was sincere and firm. "Isn't this Sun Lang a hero? He will definitely crush the enemy's evil plans and obtain the cheers and gratitude of the entire country." The atmosphere became even more silent. There was a strange silence in the silence. One after another, suspicious gazes landed on Yinluo's pretty face. The old foxes of the imperial court tried to see a crafty expression on this girl's face that went against her conscience and spoke nonsense. Unfortunately, there was none. With their countless eyes, they could see that Yinluo's words were sincere. In other words, this girl firmly believed that her lover was fighting against the evil forces in the imperial court. She was righteous and indomitable, stubbornly fighting against the evil forces in the imperial court. Was this girl tricked by Sun Lang's flowery words? Do you have any misunderstandings about your lover? Ever since this scoundrel had returned to the capital, the majority of his actions had been to diss the emperor and crush his enemy's schemes. What schemes could the emperor possibly have? The entire country was his. That's why you shouldn't make this matter sound so grand. It's just your man fighting against the emperor to fight for your honor. Everyone cursed in their hearts. Of course, all of you are respectable people in the court, so you won't say anything you shouldn't say. After all, Sun Lang had already instructed him. Huang Chao hurriedly tried to smooth things over. He said a few polite words, and then went against his conscience to praise Sun Lang. He was ready to end this short meeting. It's getting late, so we shouldn't stay on the official road. Let's set off. We'll escort you to the capital. General Shin's mansion has already been cleaned. Ladies, please go home. Zhao Yunlong asked, "What is Sun Lang doing right now?" Everyone's expression changed. Huang Chao looked in the direction of the capital and said meaningfully, "If I'm not wrong, General Shanse is probably in the palace." What was Sun Lang doing in the palace on the day of the family's return to the capital? The answer was simple: deterrence. So, you're saying that you're using public resources for your own private purposes. You're encouraging your old friends and subordinates to bring troops and equipment out of the city to welcome your women? Yes, Your Majesty. Do you have any objections? How audacious of you. A bunch of traitors. Yes, you're right. Is Your Majesty going to punish us? There's no need for us to do anything. The officials in the court are still here. So how can you cover the sky with one hand? Just wait to be reported. In the spacious and empty bedchamber, all the unrelated people were dismissed. Sun Lang moved a small stool and sat by the emperor's bed. He even had one leg up on the edge of the bed, leaving a black shoe print on the bright satin and gold embroidered quilt. Hearing the emperor's cold words, he supported his chin with one hand and said indifferently, "Fine, I'm a loyal official of the empire. Even if the imperial censors really want to impeach me, I can only tell them that they didn't go out of the city to welcome my girlfriends, but to receive important information and evidence." The emperor's expression was calm, and his eyes were indifferent. It was as if the person sitting in front of him wasn't an enemy who wanted to eat his flesh, but an ordinary official. He quietly looked at Sun Lang and asked, "What evidence?" Sun Lang revealed a simple and honest smile. "I haven't finished making it up yet." The emperor said indifferently, "You're making such a big fuss about your women coming to the capital. Aren't you afraid that I'll notice your weakness and make a move on them? You say it as if you won't notice if I don't make a big fuss." Sun Lang casually picked up a piece of wood from the chair and flicked it at the emperor's face. It didn't have any strength. The mental humiliation was better than the physical attack. He said carelessly, "If you can't think it through, feel free to make a move. You can find more women, but you only have one life." The emperor was hit in the face by the small piece of wood. His cheeks twitched fiercely. He forcefully suppressed his anger. The next thing that was thrown over was the ball of thread on the chair. He endured it again, but Sun Lang had already begun to pick his nose. He roared, "Sun Lang. So boring." Sun Lang shrugged and shouted toward the empty void, "Hey, come out and play Fight the Landlord. Whoever loses will stick a small piece of paper on their face. How about it?" A strange sound suddenly vibrated in the empty air. "With our strength, what's the point of gambling card skills? There are dozens of cards, and you can remember a good one just by looking at the pattern on the back." Sun Lang laughed. "Of course it's meaningful. We're awesome, but Your Majesty is a weakling. It's fun to beat up your brother, but it's fun to bully the emperor." The emperor's face darkened even more. The devil in the void sighed. "You didn't have to come. I know what's important. I won't do anything I shouldn't do." Sun Lang said indifferently, "That's not necessarily true. Anyway, I'll be right here. Until they get home, you just stay here and don't go anywhere. Otherwise, Your Majesty's life will be in danger." The emperor finally couldn't hold back. His eyes were as sharp as swords. Sun Lang smiled and handed over something. "Brother, don't be angry. Here, take a look at my latest masterpiece." At the same time, the convoy from Mingzhou began to move forward again. In a most luxurious carriage in the center, the girls who hadn't seen the world had yet to recover from their excitement and shock. Luo, without the crazy buff, was worried about his gains and losses. Was I a little rude? She scratched her hair and looked distressed. I've seen many heroes on the list of heroes in real life. I still want to ask them some questions. If possible, I want them to leave some calligraphy or write a few words of encouragement. But I said those words today. Is it? Zhao Feihuang complained. Trust me, wearing that demonic steel armor is much scarier than saying those words. You saw how scared General was. Luo was even more disappointed. Young Mistress Zhao was also silent. She was different from the simple-minded Luo, the shrewd manor lord of Jing, and saw things much further. She didn't believe in people's hearts and was naturally suspicious. She still had the psychic ability of the demonic artifact that she could use, so today she discovered many abnormalities. When they talked about Sun Lang fighting hard in the capital, whether it was Android or the other ministers, their psychic fluctuations were very intense. Miss Zhao thought and said, I don't think I'm wrong. These intense psychic fluctuations represent lies and patience. This shows that the situation is far from as bad as they say. Maybe it's the other way around. Sun Lang is killing people in the capital and making others suffer. He's indeed the man I value. But this is a good thing. Why would they lie? This will make us worry for nothing. There's only one reason, Miss Zhao pondered and said, only by making us worry can we not care about other things. It seems that Sun Lang must have done something bad that he doesn't want us to know. We're not old-fashioned people. I'll help him do ordinary bad things. Why doesn't he want us to know? Unless, thinking of this, Miss Zhao suddenly sighed. Su Qingwan had been paying attention to Miss Zhao's every move. Hearing this, she asked worriedly, What's wrong? Zhao Feihuang said as if nothing had happened. Nothing. I'm just a little worried about Sun Lang. Humph, there must be something wrong. But I'm not going to expose it. Whoever exposed it was a fool. Miss Zhao lowered her head and showed a smug smile. Not only did she not expose it, but she also revealed it at the right time and expressed her willingness to cover for Sun Lang. This is the right way to do it, Humph. Chapter 1141. Obviously, the witty Miss Zhao had seen through everything. With her spiritual superpower, she smelled something unusual from the generals of Tianyuan who came to greet her, and vaguely figured out the truth of the matter. But she was obviously a clever girl who saw through it, but didn't say it out loud. Sun Lang once said that making a fortune in silence is the best way. Zhao Feihuang glanced at the people in the carriage and thought happily, I'm so considerate. Sun Lang will definitely like me. In the horse team outside the carriage, the elite cavalry surrounded their respective generals and escorted the carriage. After the generals of Tianyuan who came here saw Sun Lang's family, they naturally began to gossip. Big, very big. He was a man, after all. He would first discuss such trivial matters. A mischievous guy laughed in a low voice and said, Commander of War has gotten something. He will definitely be full. Then he thought of a low chuckle. Another even more mischievous person lowered his voice and said, Maybe he hasn't eaten yet. As soon as he finished speaking, his helmet was slapped. The person who slapped him pretended to be angry and said, Aren't you King talking nonsense? Of course he hasn't eaten yet. So, this group of bastards began to laugh hysterically. After laughing enough, they began to talk about business. That nuisance Miss Zhao had a lot of thoughts. She's good at managing the family. Annie Lu has changed a little. As for Miss Zhang, she's good, very good. Just these few people. Oldu said that there's also a foreign horse from fire. He's a seraph who is as famous as Long Wanda. He should be flying in the sky to keep watch. Can barbarians be considered human? What else? I heard that there are also 2 little girls. You're just a little girl. How could you catch his eye? It seems that there aren't many of them. Not many, not many. This Miss Zhang is good enough. Although they couldn't praise him, it was obvious that these generals of Tianyuan had a good impression of Luo. She's a sincere person. She's the polar opposite of Miss Zhao. She's a little like Jiaying back then. Everyone fell silent when they reached there. They had probably sunk into their memories. They had gone through the most glorious peak of the Tian Yuan era together. They had personally witnessed Sun Lang rise step by step from a nobody to become the champion of the six armies. They could still remember that scene to this day. The Sun Lang, now, was different from the Jiaying at that time. This was undoubtedly a huge regret. It's also because of this that Commander of War looks at her differently. Seeing that the atmosphere was a little heavy, the mischievous ghost became lively again. Someone said with a smile, "If such a good girl roars like a lion from the east, it will be very interesting." Everyone laughed again. Sun Lang had been jumping up and down in the past 2 days just to cover up his affairs. It had to be said that this matter was very funny and very funny. If this guy hadn't threatened them with death, they might have taken the opportunity to make a big deal out of him. Of course, they all knew who was the one who threatened them with death. There shouldn't be any chance. Android, who had been silent all this time, interjected, "There's no flaw in the Marshal's plan. These women are deeply in love with him. They can't wait to worry about him when they hear that he's struggling in the court. They don't have time to care about other things." Someone retorted, "After all, there's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world." Android held back his laughter and said, "We said this to Commander of War before." Guess what he said? What did he say? Pongji said faintly, "Commander of War said that there's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. So use your faces and big mouths to block the wind. If the wind still leaks out, it's either because you're lazy and didn't block it, and I'll kill you. Or if you block it, but the wind leaks out from your big buttocks, and I'll fill up your buttocks." What kind of undignified threat was this? Everyone could imagine what kind of face Sun Lang had at that time when he said these words. "So," Yin Song sighed, "don't think about making trouble. It's not good to be remembered by him," someone else muttered. "What if these women see the flaw themselves?" Android said proudly, "They won't. I've already shocked them." Before he could finish, Pan Mei shouted, "Zhao Songzhou is coming out." When the carriage opened, Zhao Yunlong strode out and whistled. A horse that was following the carriage galloped forward and caught up with its master. Old Zhao's gaze swept over everyone's faces and asked directly, "Did Sun Lang ask you to help him hide something?" Everyone looked at Enjoy with different expressions on their faces. Android's eyes widened. "Why are you looking at me? Stop pretending. I knew something was wrong from Sun Lang's letter." Zhao Yunlong was one of the top military officials in the world and a famous general of the six armies. As long as she was willing, her insight and intuition would be astonishingly good. At that time, I thought that he was a little long-winded and guilty. Now that I look at him, it's true. Everyone laughed dryly. Chow Patao shook his head. "Since he wants to hide it, you don't have to tell me. I just want to know, what should I do? How should I cooperate and help?" Everyone turned to look at Enjoy again. Android was angry. "Why the hell are you all looking at me? Huh? Why are you asking me to make the decision? I'm just a fourth-rank military officer. My qualifications and achievements are not at the top. Do I have the right to make the decision? Why are you looking at me? Am I the boss?" "You black-hearted and vicious bastards." Zhao Yunlong was confused. "Why are you angry?" Fatty and small eyes were filled with anger. He looked around, and everyone whistled and looked away. He said fiercely, "Damn it, these guys are asking me to make the decision. They want me to be the scapegoat. If the car overturns or something happens, they can push the blame to me." Someone whispered, "You're the one who said you've already done it. Who asked you to be the vanguard? You even said it for us. Don't worry, after it's done, the credit will be yours." Android was about to faint from anger. He sighed heavily. "Forget it, Sister Cloud Dragon. You don't have to do anything. Just pay attention to the direction of the conversation. Once they focus on whether the Marshal did something bad in the capital, you can lead the conversation to something else. For example, got it?" Zhao Yunlong nodded. "So he really did do something behind our backs. I'll go back and tell Yin Luo and the others. Then I'll question him face to face." Android's mouth was wide open. He was so shocked that he almost fainted. Chow Patao suddenly smiled. "I'm just playing with you. Of course I'm on Sun Lang's side. I've been with him since he started a rebellion. Why would I care about other small things? Fatty and wanted to throw a tantrum, but when he thought of Zhao Yunlong's strength, he could only swallow his bitter tears back into his stomach. If it wasn't for the fact that I can't beat you, I don't dare let Yin Luo and Zhao Fei Huang know. After thinking about it, there are only a few things. Zhao Yunlong said again. Are you sure you can keep it a secret? Android immediately shifted the blame. Yin Song was the one who came up with the plan. If the car fails, we'll cut him into pieces. Yin Song was furious. Bullsh asterisk T. You're the one who carried out the plan. If the car fails, it's because you didn't carry it out well. We'll cut you into pieces first. Anjua snorted. I've already done everything perfectly. What if there's a flaw in your plan and something unexpected happens? What are you going to do then? Look, even Sister Cloud Dragon saw through it. It doesn't matter if General Zhao sees through it. She's one of us and can help cover for us. Yin Song was indeed a white paper fan. He flattered Chow Patao first, and then said, the ones we really need to hide from are the main characters. It's good that they can't see through it. That way, there's no problem at all. It's steady. I'm a professional strategist, and the Marshal has been through hundreds of battles. He's a meticulous strategist. How can there be a mistake? Before he finished speaking, the ground shook slightly. Everyone looked at each other for a moment, and their hearts sank. The troops that had come out of the city to welcome them had all arrived. Where did this group of horses come from? A cloud of dust rose in the distance. Obviously, it was a group of fast riders. After a while, the sentry who had opened the road came back to report. A long shout was heard. Report, Tensei Province is here. Chapter 1142. Report. The messenger's voice came from afar. On the cruel Tianyuan battlefield, where the flames of war raged, such a voice was not uncommon. As the generals of the Tianyuan battlefield, they were no stranger to such a voice. The fierce battle cries, the tense atmosphere, the constant issuing of orders, the stern-looking generals, and the messengers hurriedly entering the tents. Those people were the messengers of the battlefield. They brought all kinds of news, good news, and bad news. They influenced the morale of the soldiers and revealed the outcome of the battle. In their long and short military careers, they had heard the word report countless times. They had also heard bad news countless times. The arrival of a strong enemy, the defeat of the front line, the loss of a general, the change in the rear, the encirclement of their allies. War was full of variables. Anything could happen. But no matter what happened, an excellent general should have the ability to remain calm, even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. Everyone present could be called excellent soldiers. However, they had to admit that among all the bad news they had heard during their long years in the military, there were very few that could compare to this one. The general of Tensei Province is here. The news was like a thunderclap in the sky. Everyone was shocked inside and outside. F*CK. The courtiers, who were particular about their manners, cursed one after another. Then, they all looked at Yin Song, who had just boasted. Old Yin had just boasted when he was slapped in the face by King Kong. He was so stunned that he almost burst into tears. Android said lightly, a professional strategist. What's the plan? Yin Song came back to his senses. He was stunned for a moment and almost jumped off the horse. He said angrily, This doesn't make sense. Of course, he had learned this from Sun Lang. It shouldn't be. Why is she here? What's she doing here? Old Yin held his cheeks. His expression quickly changed. He began to mumble, as if he had not expected such a change at all. That's not right. It shouldn't be. Isn't she the key person to take care of? The general should have taken care of her first. Shouldn't he? Did she go back on her words? Everyone looked at each other. Tensei Province. General of Tensei. The gossip between Empress and Sun Lang would take more than 3 days and 3 nights to finish. During the Great War of Tianyuan, the relationship between the two was ambiguous. It was rumored that they were even talking about marriage. Most people believed that the court assembly would have a son-in-law with outstanding martial arts skills, and that the emperor would have a son-in-law who was not very well behaved. However, this was not a fairy tale. The reality was much crueler than one could imagine. The royal family had proven themselves to be ruthless. The former celestial couple had obviously turned against each other and become enemies. All kinds of signs indicated that the emperor concubine also had a hand in the unspeakable change in the great desolate mountain. Sun Lang's attitude after returning to the capital also indicated this point. This returning avenger did not think of any old feelings. He had always been cold and ruthless. The former flirting with each other, the former tacit love, seemed to have never existed in an illusory dream. As for the confession of love in front of the imperial ancestral temple and the stupefying marriage proposal, this was naturally Sun Lang's evil plan. No one was a fool. Of course, they could see that Sun Lang was trying to drive a wedge between them. But at this moment, retribution in this life came so quickly. At this time of celebration, Sun Lang's family was about to arrive in the capital. Empress came. She was definitely not here to invite them to dinner, nor to welcome them. Then what was she here for? Everyone's eyes said it all. Jealousy, demonstration, competition, adding insult to injury, report and expose, complain and make a scene, and so on and so forth. In an instant, everyone's imagination was amazing. Immediately, a big story emerged in their minds. Their minds were in a storm. The ups and downs of the plot slowly unfolded. The fire of gossip burned fiercely. At this moment, dozens of great ideas reached a consensus. If nothing unexpected happened, Sun Lang was probably going to die. Pity him for making you jump like this. If Huang Chao and other good friends were really watching the show, then Android and Yin Song were really anxious. It was not that they did not want to watch the show, but their lives were really important. After all, Sun Lang had already said that if he failed, none of them would be able to escape. Therefore, for the sake of their own lives, they had to perform well. Android looked left and right, as if looking for someone to take the blame. He looked at Huang Chao and showed a sincere expression. General Chong Tian, I think that with your experience and ability. Huang Chao laughed and said, This is your commander of war's private matter. I'm just a guest who came to watch the ceremony. Cunning old man. And Zhua cursed in his heart. We looked at the others. They also laughed and looked away. He then looked at the incompetent military advisor, Yin Song. This fellow was still mumbling nonsense like this is not scientific. As for the brothers under Pang Ji, they all looked flustered, not knowing what to do. This kind of situation was no longer a problem that could be solved with strength and intelligence. Even if it was an important minister or a pillar of the country, if his residence was raided or he was trapped in a brothel by his wife, no matter how smart or powerful he was, he would still have to run away like a rat. Now that Empress had trapped Sun Lang's family, it was undoubtedly related to the Shunsei general's lifestyle. How could they deal with this group of people? They did not even have the experience to deal with this kind of situation. Furthermore, this kind of internal affair was not something that outsiders like them could deal with. When the generals thought of this, they helplessly and anxiously turned their gazes to Zhao Yunlong. Yunlong Jia, this time it's up to you. Zhao Yunlong blinked his eyes. Are you waiting for me to make a decision? They nodded frantically. Chao Patao raised his arm and shouted, Grab your weapons. Let's fight with Misty first. Everyone was shocked. Even someone like Zhua, who was a devil incarnate, felt that this suggestion was too radical. He muttered, That's not very good. What's not good about it? Chao Patao glared at him. How dare you bully Sun Lang? I haven't settled the score yet. She looked like she was going to be serious. Yin Song also advised, No, if they really fight and make a big deal out of it, what should we do? Shinto Province and Tensei Province have a fight outside the capital. We are all important ministers and generals in the imperial court. This kind of behavior is a disgrace to the country, and it will also damage the reputation of the ladies. Chao Patao raised his eyebrows and said, Then what should we do? That woman has a sharp tongue. I can't beat her. Annie Lu can argue with her, but she doesn't have the right to do so. Zhao Fei Huang is also inexperienced, and Zhang Yin Luo is needless to say. In terms of temperament, methods, and state of mind, Who can be her opponent? If she comes here and opens her mouth to speak, we will lose. No matter what her purpose is, she will get what she wants, understand? So we can only throw a round of punches. No matter what, we have to beat this woman up so that she can't speak. We have to beat her up, and even Tensei Province. We have to turn today's incident into a fight between Shinto Province and Tensei Province, so that woman can't even let out a fart. It had to be said that Zhao Yunlong, as a famous general of Tianyuan and the military commander of Songzhou, was extremely awesome. He immediately saw through the phenomenon, saw the essential point, and pointed out the only way to win. Yes, the heavenly strategy's empress concubine was the most dazzling pearl of the imperial family. Her status was noble, her power was great, her beauty was noble, and her achievements were splendid. No matter if it was her intelligence, methods, or aura, she basically had an overwhelming advantage. Compared to Yin Luo and the others, she had a huge advantage. She got everything first. This kind of cunning and scheming woman was not inferior to Sun Lang. If she appeared in front of Sun Lang's new lovers with the ambiguous identity of his ex-girlfriend, it would be a huge threat and challenge. At least in terms of quarreling and competing, Yin Luo and the others would definitely not have any advantage. Even the scheming Miss Zhao would not be able to win against her. The only way to win against the enemy was to play to one's strengths and avoid one's weaknesses. It was the only advantage one had. In terms of martial arts, Zhao Yunlong could beat her. Therefore, they had to fight. There was nothing wrong with her train of thought. However, it was still difficult for Pongji and the others to accept. It did sound quite reasonable, but looking at the issue of jealousy between women from a purely military point of view and using violence to break this gentle situation, was there something wrong? As a man, he could not understand Zhao Yunlong's way of thinking at this time. Pongji said with a guilty conscience, "This should we?" Unfortunately, Zhao Yunlong was not a long-winded woman. Not only was she swift and decisive, but she was also a general of Songzhou. She had a group of loyal followers under her. She did not need to ask for the approval of Sun Lang's subordinates to do anything she wanted. Everyone prepared to attack. Chapter 1143. Hooves thundered as horses galloped. A group of people from Tensei Province galloped out of Dingyuan. Under the curious gazes of passers-by, they galloped on the official road outside the capital. The leader was dressed in silver armor and a cloak. Her eyebrows were like swords, and she exuded a domineering aura. She was the emperor's favorite daughter, Her Highness Empress of Tensei. All the civil and military officials of Tensei Province were present. They were all dressed in formal attire and galloped behind their leader. They all looked serious, as if they were facing a great enemy. Their eyes were wandering, as if they wanted to say something but didn't dare to. The wind howled and the horses neighed. Her Highness Empress, who was in the lead, only cared about charging forward. Her subordinates were constantly exchanging glances as if they were discussing something. "Your Highness, Your Highness." Wei Zhang's voice was still steadily heard in the fierce wind. "I still don't understand why Tensei Province wants to join the fun. Do they want to make things difficult for the people from Mingzhou?" People from Mingzhou. This title had become a code name. Tensei Province had never stopped paying attention to the north, especially when Sun Lang returned to the south. The relevant intelligence support became the most important. After all, it was an extremely dangerous battle. They should use all means and have no scruples. Not harming one's wife and children was just a cover for when there was still time. When it really came to a critical moment, who would care about that? Therefore, the various information and movements of Zhang Yinluo and Zhao Feihuang had been thoroughly analyzed by the Tensei Province's think tanks. The journey of the Mingzhou convoy to the south was also closely monitored by the Tensei Province's huge intelligence network. The Tensei Province had also been informed of their arrival in the capital today. However, monitoring was one thing, but getting close to it himself was another matter altogether. The cavalry galloped and the wind howled. Everyone's mood fluctuated with the galloping of the horses. They all felt indescribably strange. Sun Lang's new lovers are coming to the capital. Why is Her Highness getting involved? Could it be that they were jealous? Is it interesting? Your Highness, you're already like Sun Lang. What's the point of doing this? Not only was it embarrassing, but it also weakened the prestige of Tensei Province and caused people to gossip. The men of Tensei Province couldn't understand their commander's rare, girlish feelings. After all, General Tensei had always been tenacious and upright. She was more open-minded and decisive than men, and rarely was her decisions influenced by personal feelings. Everyone was used to following her orders, so they were at a loss when it came to this strange order. Facing Wei Zheng's question, Empress said calmly, "I'm not making things difficult for them. I'm just here to take a look and talk to them. Isn't that troublesome? She's Sun Lang's new lover, and you're Sun Lang's old lover. She's a guest, and you're the local tyrant. Yet, you just arrived and you're pressing on her so aggressively. What's this called? This is called a demonstration. And you want to talk? What's there to talk about? Do you still think you're lucky?" Before coming, Wei Zheng and the others had already tried to persuade her several times, but the Empress concubine had already made up her mind. No matter what the general said, she wouldn't change her mind. No one could understand her thoughts. She just wanted to come and see those women. "I'll say it again," Empress slowly said. "If you don't want to join in the fun, you don't have to come." "How can that be?" Cheng Yaojin shouted. "Although Sun Lang isn't here, his lackeys have all gone to lick his stinky feet. Those rascals have been with Sun Lang for too long, and they're all deranged, cunning, and repulsive. If they speak rudely to your Highness or even attack your Highness, we'll have to stay behind to protect you." Ho Junji coldly said, "That's right. Android Pongji Yin Song and his lackeys all have foul mouths. Although they don't dare to attack, they can still use their mouths. For better or worse, we can cheer for your Highness and not be weakened." Not only that, a sinister smile appeared on Fong Qiao's face. "Sun Lang has been jumping up and down in the capital these past few days. None of you know what he's up to, but I do. He's afraid that the women of Mingzhou will find out about the wicked things he's done in the capital, so he's trying to cover it up." Before he could finish speaking, someone laughed and said, "Sir Fong, you're truly well learned. You're even able to see through this. How can you be so skilled?" Everyone roared with laughter. Everyone in Tensei Province knew that Fong Qiao was henpecked, but Sir Fong was not angry. After all, he had been henpecked for a long time, and his thinking had undergone a major shift. He had gone from being henpecked is shameful to being henpecked is because he loves his wife. In any case, those uncouth men will never be able to understand. This was a self-protection mechanism of the brain. It would weave a series of suggestive lies to deceive one's subconscious into believing them, so as to avoid causing lasting damage to one's mind. It was similar to how homebodies who had been single for a long time would change their thinking from not being able to find a girlfriend to "It's not that I can't find a girlfriend. It's just that I'm too lazy to find one. If I want to find one, I'll definitely find one." Therefore, Fong Qiao just snorted disdainfully and continued. "In short, if he wants to cover it up, we won't let him do as he wishes. Today, we came together to see him make a fool of himself. It's also a wonderful thing." Everyone remembered the deep hatred they had for being bullied and teased by Sun Lang, and they couldn't help but gnash their teeth. Now that they had a chance to vent their anger, they only needed to say a few words to make the truth that Sun Lang had painstakingly covered up come out. In front of his friends, it was simply a pleasure to repay kindness and revenge. If they didn't do it, they wouldn't be Tensei people. So they all shouted, "Let's do it! Let's do it!" As for the threats and hints Sun Lang sent the day before yesterday, no one took them to heart. The two sides were originally enemies who were tit for tat. So how could they show mercy to the enemy? But at this moment, Empress suddenly said, "Later on, no one is to talk nonsense." Hearing this, everyone was shocked and didn't understand. General Tensei repeated her words, "Don't say anything about what Sun Lang did. Later on, no one is to talk too much. Since you're here, just focus on listening. Everything will be decided by me." "What's going on?" Wei Zheng raised his eyebrows and stared at Empress's back thoughtfully. He asked with a somewhat meaningful tone, "May I ask, General, what is the purpose of this trip? The Empress concubine silently urged her horse forward and didn't say anything for a long time. After a period of silence, her words drifted over with the wind. They weren't as forceful and powerful as usual. Instead, they were accompanied by the wind and seemed a little lost. I don't know either, she sighed, but I just feel that I should come and see and talk to them. After saying this, she squeezed the horse's abdomen, and the divine warhorse suddenly sped up, leaving everyone behind. The generals hurriedly waved their whips and chased after, but Empress's last words lingered in everyone's minds. They didn't know the deeper meaning of these words, but they could hear that Her Highness had sunk into some kind of confusion. Thus, they developed an indescribable feeling, perhaps a kind of panic that something might happen. Her Highness's situation is a little strange. Someone sighed. Could it be that she still hasn't forgotten Sun Lang? Wei Zheng said coldly. Who told Sun Lang not to die? If he died, it's fine to remember it for a lifetime. Empress urged the horse to gallop, the wind blowing against her face. It was icy cold, but her heart was burning fiercely, burning with an inexplicable restlessness. Today, when she heard that Zhang Yinluo and the others were about to enter the capital, her heart began to become restless. She couldn't describe this feeling, but she was very uneasy. In the past, he already had someone else in his heart. When he was hurt, he would rely on others. When he confided in others, he would find others. When he was sad, he would hug others. She originally had this power, but now she had lost it and had given some things to others. But today, she felt all of this reality. She really hated this feeling. Empress gritted her teeth and clenched her fists. There was a ball of fire burning in her heart. She was very angry, very restless, very disappointed, very sad, but she had to suppress these feelings. She didn't want to calmly face her heart, because everything could no longer be recovered. She wouldn't show weakness and let Sun Lang see her as a joke. She wasn't willing to be the weak one. She wasn't willing to stop and cry for things that couldn't be recovered. Right now, she just wanted to see that woman, the woman Sun Lang couldn't forget, the woman who took Sun Lang's hand from her. She didn't know why, but she just wanted to talk to her, see what kind of person she was. Although there was no meaning, she really wanted to see her. After seeing her, she should completely give up. She was Empress, a general of Tensei, and a daughter of the royal family. Other than love, she had ambitions, responsibilities, and subjects. She had her own mission. She didn't belong to anyone. It was like this in the past, and it was even more so now. Yes, she just wanted to see. Suddenly, there was a trace of wetness in the whistling wind, like tears falling in the wind, never to be seen again. After running for a long time, Empress heard the shouts of her subordinates behind her. She woke up from her memories and looked ahead. There was a murderous aura in front of her. There was a general riding on a horse. It was also a female general. Her expression was awe-inspiring, and her armor was shining brightly. It was the general of Song Province, Zhao Yunlong. She calmed herself down, pulled the reins, and slowly said, General Zhao. Zhao Yunlong scolded, Little girl, how dare you block my way? How dare you? Where did this dog's temper come from? Empress was in the state of a young girl, full of melancholy at this time. She didn't want to complicate things. She just wanted to see the woman surnamed Zhang. She really didn't want to quarrel with Zhao Yunlong, so she said, I'm here to see Zhang Yinluo. Chao Patao's expression changed, and she shouted, You really have bad intentions. Li, why are you going back to the old grass? Why are you so thick-skinned and pestering? Have a taste of my staff first. Then Zhao Yunlong patted the neck of the horse, and the white horse suddenly sped up and rushed towards Empress. Chao Patao shouted, and her voice shook the 9 heavens like thunder. She turned the silver spear in her hand and swung it towards Empress. What are you all standing there for? Go together. Tensei Province is beating people. Chapter 1144. Song Province's General Zhao Yunlong. Fierce. This Tianyuan general under Sun Lang's command was known for his lightning-fast attacks and his fighting prowess. He was a famous general harvester. He didn't fight anything else, but specifically targeted the Sky Demon's great saint-level characters. He often killed the saint selection champions like chickens. His methods were fast and professional. He basically chose his opponent, flattered them, raised his spear, and killed them. This was a reenactment of Tianyuan. Silver Shadow's attack, the general's sudden attack, and a fierce wind blew. The Empress Concubine's horse was fast, leaving the generals of the Heavenly Policy Hall behind her. Her skills were also far inferior to Zhao Yunlong's. Furthermore, it was an unintentional fight, so how could she not fall for it? She immediately felt pain in her chest. Amidst the neighing of the horse, Cao Patao's spear shaft knocked her off her horse. Qin Xiong and the other generals saw this from afar and let out angry roars. They directly used their movement techniques, flying up from their horses and charging forward with all their might. Meanwhile, Zhao Yunlong immediately threw down her spear and jumped off her horse. She grabbed Empress's lapel and, without saying a word, smashed her face with a fist. Although this move was fast, it didn't use internal energy. Empress reached out to block it, and the confusion from the surprise attack turned into anger. The two valiant women stared at each other. General Tensei shouted, "What are you doing?" Zhao Yunlong coldly said, "What are you doing here?" The two were in a deadlock for a moment, then changed their moves at the same time. Cao Patao raised her elbow and smashed it down. Empress ducked and swept her leg. Zhao Yunlong was a valiant general in the army, and General Tensei was the host of the country's national weapon. Both of them had extraordinary courage and strength, and every move they made could cause rocks to move and sand to fly. But now, they were fighting like ordinary women of the Wu family. Qin Xiong and the others desperately rushed forward and shouted, "Zhao, get out of the way!" Zhao Yunlong also shouted, "Where are my confidants?" The Song province troops she had brought with her had been surrounding their military commander for a long time and were ready to make a move. Now that they heard the order, they abandoned their weapons and let out a shout, facing the Tensei province's elite troops and strong generals and swinging their fists. Among the 9 provinces under the heavens, Song province was known for its crossbow and crossbow. Their archery skills were well known throughout the world. Since they were crossbowmen, naturally they had the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear. Their shoulders and waist were large and round, and their arms had the strength of 1,000 caddies. That was why they were able to draw a strong bow and control a heavy crossbow. In terms of hand-to-hand combat, they were naturally excellent. Moreover, they were the elite troops under Cao Patao's command. They were deeply influenced by Sun Lang's legacy, so it was normal for them to engage in group fights. Their rich experience was far from comparable to the regular soldiers and generals under Tensei Province's command. Therefore, the Song Province's brothers and nobles formed a formation and swung their fists. When they met face to face, a row of people was knocked down. The Tensei Province's soldiers and generals didn't expect that they would actually have to fight this time. They didn't change their mentality for a moment, so their hands and feet were tied. They suffered a big loss right in front of them, but after all, they were well trained. After the initial confusion, they quickly began to counterattack. They saw that the Song Province's people on the opposite side had abandoned their weapons, and they didn't dare to use their weapons. They also raised their fists and roared angrily, starting to fight with the other side. Therefore, a fierce fight began. The people on both sides were orderly in the chaos. In the extremely chaotic fight, the space within a radius of 10 feet was left for the two fierce fighting figures. Zhao Yunlong and Empress fiercely attacked each other. As they fought, she shouted, "I won't use my martial arts to bully you. I'll let you see the methods of the Sun family." This attitude of the Sun family was more powerful than the fists. Empress's heart was burning with anger. He opened his mouth and cursed, "Shameless." As long as she wasn't by Sun Lang's side, Zhao Yunlong's various attributes would be greatly increased or even restored. Even her poisonous tongue was no exception. When she heard this, she directly replied, "What? Are you envious? Jealous? Do you regret it? But it's useless. Are you worthy of the surname Sun?" As they bickered, the situation of the battle changed again. In terms of fighting, the obedient children of Tensei province weren't a match at all. Their relevant skills and experience were too lacking. However, in addition to the guards and soldiers of Tensei province, almost all of the civil and military officials had gathered. In terms of high-end combat strength, the Song province's soldiers and horses couldn't compare. Cheng Yaojin rampaged, Qin Xiong swept and threw, Ho Junji pointed and flicked, and the generals of Tensei province used all of their skills to knock down the Song province's soldiers. Soon, they gradually turned the situation around. However, the villains of Shinto province had also arrived. They're fighting. Song province is going to lose. Ma Shiying's eyes were sharp, and she was also a formation master. She immediately saw the change in strength and immediately got off her horse. She rolled up her sleeves and said, "Brothers, quickly go and help stabilize the situation. Don't lose face for Zhao Yunlong." The generals felt their balls ache. They were really fighting. How were they going to end this? The important matter that Sun Lang had repeatedly warned them about had actually turned out like this. They were really flustered. Android shouted, "Hey, but this..." Ma Shiying's brain was much faster than theirs. Who cares about this? Zhao Yunlong is provoking Empress. Whether the marshal flicks her forehead or spanks her, that's the marshal's business. If he finds out that we're just watching from the sidelines, what do you think will happen? Android suddenly came to a realization and shouted, "Split half of the people to help. Yin Song, you stay behind to protect the guests in the carriage. The rest of you, come with me. Don't worry about anything else. If the general of Tensei province has anything to do with us, let them lie down first, and then we'll talk." Thus, a group of people rushed over. The general of Tensei and the general of Shunsei were rivals. Even these two armies had an extremely subtle relationship with each other. There had to be a winner and a loser, and today was just the right day. Other than the general of Shinto province, there were also Sun Lang's old friends who had come today. Many people who were not afraid of Tensei province's power and influence also rolled up their sleeves to join in the fun. The rest of the people who were more prudent did not want to get involved. Yin Song stayed where he was. He rolled his eyes and said with a flattering smile, "General Chong Tian, don't you want to stretch your muscles?" Huang Chao glanced at him. Aye. Before he could finish, a sound came from the carriage. Inluo stuck his head out and asked, "Sir, what happened?" Yin Song immediately trotted forward. He was not an arrogant madman, nor was he a straight man who looked down on women. He respected Sun Lang and, of course, also respected Sun Lang's lover. Thus, he always maintained a polite attitude. Moreover, he was a civil official who thought a lot, liked to ponder, and was quite considerate. No matter how good these women were, they were only women who came from the countryside of Mingzhou. They did not know the situation in the imperial court and had not experienced the hardships of the imperial capital. If they knew that Empress was here, they would probably be frightened. After all, it was Empress Tensei, a character in the heroes list. Even we don't dare to underestimate him, let alone them. If we say it and offend them, it would be bad. He was just about to think of an excuse when Huang Chao said from behind, "The general of Tensei province is here." Empress's intentions are unclear, but he has already fought with Zhao Yunlong. "Boss, you're human. Why did you say it out loud?" Yin Song shouted in his heart. He was thinking about how to calm the panic of the guests when he looked up and was shocked, because in an instant, two more beautiful heads popped out above Zhang Yinluo's head. The three beautiful faces had different expressions and said the same thing. "That woman is here." His Highness Empress was very famous. For example, Zhao Fei Huang, Miss Zhao, had joined Tensei province in the early years and was ordered to collect demonic artifacts. She was almost possessed. For example, Lu Shujin, Annie Lu, had cooperated with Tensei province in the early years to forge the demon sword K2. She was almost poured into the sword's hilt by another personality, and her family business was crushed into dust. For example, Inluo and Empress didn't have any grudges, but she knew that Sun Lang and Empress had a lot of joys and sorrows. Moreover, as Sun Lang's sweetheart, she always had a faint hostility towards His Highness Empress. This kind of inexplicable hostility could be called the Bai Shui effect, because Zhang Doma knew in his heart that it was indeed Li Xuezai who started it first. This was the feeling. Therefore, because of different feelings, the girls made a choice. Auntie Lu said, "I'll go beat her up." Zhao Feihuang said, "I'll go help." Zhang Yinluo said, "I'll go take a look." "You can't go there." Yin Song was shocked. Not to mention that this fight would involve punching and kicking. If any of the delicate girls were injured, everyone would have to bear the consequences. Moreover, what Zhao Yunlong had tried his best to avoid was letting Empress meet Zhang Yinluo and the others. Now that this happened, wouldn't all his previous efforts be wasted? "No, this definitely can't happen," he said. "We left so many people behind to ensure everyone's safety. This fight isn't easy to play around with." A group of burly men wrestling together. They're all rough men who don't know how to control their strength. What if they hurt everyone? It's not safe at all. Moreover, Yin Song looked at Zhao Feihuang and pulled out Sun Lang's banner. If something happens to everyone's safety, the marshal will definitely be very unhappy and worried. This was a subtle hint that the marshal liked obedient children. Then, Zhao Feihuang began to hesitate. Next was Lu Shujian. Yin Song knew some of Lu Zhen's past and guessed some of it. He hinted indirectly that if Auntie Lu came in front of Empress, it might cause General Tensei to bite her and cause countless troubles. When Master Lu heard this, he snorted coldly and seemed to be convinced. In the end, only Zhang Yinluo was left. Yin Song wanted to persuade him again, but he saw Yinluo get off the carriage. He took out a Fire Nation's monocular and flipped onto the carriage. "Let me take a look first." Huang Chao and the others calmly changed their positions to guard against sneak attacks from above. Yin Song simply went to Yinluo's side to protect him. The girl narrowed her eyes and looked at the battlefield through the monocular. She saw that everyone was fighting. With the addition of the new forces from Shinto province, all the villains' morale was greatly boosted. In the middle of the group battle, Empress and Zhao Yunlong were still fighting one-on-one. Chao Patao's martial arts were very high, and Empress had a lot of them. Even if he did not use his special technique, he still had the upper hand. Empress was firmly suppressed. Every now and then, she would be punched and kicked. However, the Emperor's princess still gritted her teeth and fought with all her might. Through the monocular, Yinluo saw her face clearly, and as if she sensed something, Empress suddenly raised her head and looked in Yinluo's direction. Then, Zhang Yinluo saw her gaze, her expression, and even her emotions. She gritted her teeth, was angry, felt wronged, was at a loss, was furious, and sighed. In an instant, Yinluo's heart skipped a beat. She put down the monocular and said in a calm but straightforward tone, "I want to go." Chapter 1145. At this moment, the fight had already reached its climax. All the villains of Shinto province had joined the fray, offsetting the advantage of Tensei province in terms of high-end combat power. Android and the others fought in pairs, firmly entangling Qin Xiong's group. King against king, general against general, soldier against soldier. The scales of victory and defeat had tilted, and the situation had changed once more. Yinluo put away the monocular and said concisely, "I want to go." Yin Song suddenly shook his head. Absolutely not. He knew the status of this woman from Mingzhou in Sun Lang's heart. If she was injured, the marshal would definitely go crazy. Out of his personal loyalty and duty, he could not allow Zhang Yinluo to take the risk. After all, he could tell a person's cultivation level from their breathing, aura, and footwork. This Zhang Yinluo's martial arts were clearly not strong enough, at least not enough to be involved in such a dispute. Yinluo said, "This won't do. If they continue fighting, something will happen. We have to stop them." Yin Song anxiously said, "Zhao Yunlong is a great general of Song province. Other than the marshal, he doesn't listen to anyone. Empress is even more so a great general of the imperial court. She is of imperial blood and tyrannical, unbridled, and peerless. These two women are phoenixes among men, heroines. If they start fighting other than the marshal, who can stop them? These words were quite tactful. What he meant was, great aunt, you know what you're talking about. With your 3 kilograms and 2 tails, Zhao Yunlong and Empress will definitely not listen to your words. However, Yinluo only said, I'll try. Her tone was one of determination and not discussion. She did not care what Yin Song thought. She directly jumped off the carriage and ran to the back of the carriage, ignoring Yin Song's conflicted and even displeased expression. How could this woman not know the immensity of heaven and earth? Yin Song wanted to continue persuading her, but Huang Chao pulled him back. Great General, old Yin said angrily. Why didn't you say anything just now? If anything happens, I won't be able to bear the responsibility. Isn't she just messing around? You should worry about something else. Huang Chao looked at the battlefield where everyone was fighting. Chao Patao didn't use his zhenqi or inner strength. Instead, he relied on his rich combat experience and beast-like fighting instincts to gradually suppress Empress. It was only a matter of time before he gained the upper hand. Victory was only a matter of time. The rhythm of the battle was already under the control of Song Province's great general. Empress was becoming more and more passive. Empress is a proud daughter of the heavens. She has a noble status and a high position. How can she be humiliated? The ministers and generals of Tensei Province are loyal and devoted. How can they sit by and watch the Lord be humiliated? Yin Song's eyes changed. He seemed to have understood something. Right now, both sides are fighting in groups. Zhao Yunlong's subordinates didn't use their weapons, and Tensei Province only punched and kicked. Although the battle between both sides is fierce, they didn't use their killing moves. At most, it's just a conflict. Both sides have their scruples. Shinto Province doesn't want to cause trouble, and Tensei Province is also afraid of Sun Lang's ferocious power. Therefore, although the battle is lively, there hasn't been any bloodshed, and they don't dare to kill anyone. Otherwise, if they use their weapons and heavy blows, there won't be any end to this matter. But Empress is about to lose. Huang Chao said faintly. Right now, the army chief of Tensei Province is being beaten by Song Province's great general in front of everyone. Who in Tensei Province can tolerate this? If the Lord is humiliated, the minister will die. Sitting by and watching the general being humiliated is worse than killing them. At that time, they won't care about propriety or scruples anymore. If Tensei Province uses their weapons, Shinto Province will use their weapons. If Tensei Province uses their imperial army, Shinto Province will do the same. If you see blood, I will see blood. If you kill, I will kill as well. Things will get out of hand. Yin Song was shocked. Zhao Yunlong didn't think of this? Huang Chao shook his head. Why would Zhao Yunlong care about this? She only cares about Sun Lang's emotions. She doesn't care about anything else. Why don't you take a gamble on whether she knows her limits? Cold sweat rolled down Yin Song's forehead as he said, We have to ask the marshal to come here. Of course, Huang Chao said. Let the girl, surnamed Zhang, try. She might have a miraculous effect. Yin Song was very principled. Even though he was panicking, he didn't change his mind. With Miss Zhang's martial arts, it's too dangerous. Moreover, Huang Chao revealed a faint smile. I think she can do it. Look, Miss Zhao and Master Lu don't look worried at all. They should know Miss Zhang better than you do, right? Yin Song looked in surprise. Sure enough, Miss Zhao sighed and Master Lu shook his head. However, the two didn't look worried at all. They seemed to have some kind of confidence in Zhang Yinluo that he didn't know about. He soon found out where this confidence came from. Over there, rocks and sand were flying everywhere. The atmosphere was extremely heated. Everyone was fighting in pairs. There were sounds of people panting, falling, and shouting. The strong men were fighting with all their might. Strong male hormones intertwined in the air. Fierce sparks were created from the collision of strong and powerful bodies. The air was filled with the smell of philosophy. In this masculine battle atmosphere, a gentle and beautiful voice drifted in. Stop fighting. Everyone, stop fighting. The woman's voice was very sweet and gentle. It was filled with anxiety and concern. It was full of compassion and kindness. It seemed that she didn't want to see any fighting or anyone get hurt. Unfortunately, other than the people from Shinto province who hesitated for a moment, the others were completely unmoved. They shouted, fought, jumped, and beat the drums of their bodies and souls. I told you to stop fighting, you bunch of energetic maggots. In the next second, the atmosphere suddenly changed. The gentle voice turned into a roar that shook the heavens. Amidst a sharp roar, the flaming sun armor shot into the sky with the help of the meteor nozzle and smashed into the arena. The earth shook and the air surged. Under the dumbfounded gazes of the people, especially those from Tensei province, Chitong's steel monster stood up from a half-kneeling position. Thick white gas spewed out from the gaps of the armor. The blade of the battle axe in its hand lit up with a blazing light. It suddenly swung the axe horizontally, blowing away the smoke and dust. With a bang, Inluo raised his right arm and fired a shot into the sky. The sound of the explosive arrow heavy gun was extremely loud. It was as if thunder had resounded in the sky. She looked around fiercely. Her anger was captured by the power armor's simple mechanical soul and fed back to the armor. The red light in the armor's eyes suddenly blazed. She looked like a demon that was about to devour people. You maggots with developed limbs. You simple-minded idiots. Even a 3-year-old child knows better than you. The country's war generals fighting on the street. Have some shame. The people of the empire had a strong sense of superiority and national honor. The people present were the country's proudest and most powerful group of soldiers. They would never be scared off by Li Huo's power armor. But for some reason, they did feel an inexplicable courage and pressure that made them think carefully before cursing. Chung Yaojin was a rash person. He had just been kicked a few times, so he didn't think too much. He just stared and said, "You, who are you?" In the end, he didn't curse out the word F***, because when he opened his mouth, the people from Shinto province all stared at him. Their eyes were full of murderous intent and threat. It seemed that if he spoke rudely, he would be mercilessly threatened or even attacked. In the face of Chung Yaojin's question, the ferocious armor hesitated for a moment and then said frankly, "I want to see your highness's people." Then she turned around, slashed the crimson flame axe in her hand to the ground, put away the bolt gun, and strode toward the core conflict area in the roar of hydraulic propulsion and heavy footsteps. Zhao Yunlong, an empress, also stopped. To be precise, it was Cao Patao who pressed Empress down and clamped her wrist. The two most powerful female soldiers of the empire were maintaining a rather ambiguous posture. They both turned their heads and looked at Zhang Yinluo, who was walking over. Cao Patao's eyes flashed, and Empress was expressionless. Yinluo said softly, "Sister Zhao, please let her go." Zhao Yunlong snorted and shook off Empress's wrist. She looked down at her defeated opponent with cold and sharp eyes. Then she stood up proudly, waved the gun in her hand, and stood next to Yinluo. The Yongyin power armor squatted down and took off the helmet. There was a slight commotion in the crowd of spectators, but the women at the center of the matter had sunk into a world of their own. The Emperor's concubine and Yinluo's eyes met. They saw their own reflections in each other's eyes, but also seemed to see something else. In that instant, they exchanged glances as if they both understood something. "Your Highness Empress, hello." Yinluo stretched out a huge steel hand. "I'm Zhang Yinluo, Sun Lang's good friend." Chapter 1146. In the palace. In His Majesty's bedroom. Strange teasing laughter rang out. "Your Majesty, do you still not feel it? So what? Are you enjoying it? What, you don't like it?" And so on. Someone's strange laughter, meaningful dialogue, and the Emperor's impatient scolding. With all these sounds mixed together, it could only be described as messy. If not for the fact that these sounds were restricted within the bedroom by a mysterious force and were not heard by the palace servants outside, General Shin's reputation would really be damaged. On the dragon bed, the Emperor of the World let out a slightly frantic roar. "You bastard!" As an emperor, he was born noble and did not eat the food of the common populace. Therefore, his vocabulary of cursing was extremely limited. After holding in for a long time, he could only say bastard without any lethality. However, Sun Lang's level of posture was much higher than his. He held up the picture book that the Crown Prince's residence had rushed to print overnight and showed it in front of His Majesty. The page full of breasts, the blood-boiling scene, the unprecedented posture, and the shocking number of people sharing the same screen. It was obviously a 3A-level masterpiece. He showed it while laughing. Your Majesty, are you not interested at all? The leaders of the court are very interested in it. You don't have any reaction at all. No wonder Empress said that you can't do it anymore. These words were vicious, 100 times more vicious than the Emperor's scolding. No man could stand it. Li Guanyuan fell for it. He roared, "That bitch." Sun Lang sighed again. I didn't expect your Majesty to have such a secret. It really makes one sympathize. I heard that you haven't been close to women these years. Now it seems that it's not that you don't want to, it's that you can't. To tell you the truth, I haven't been close to women these years. However, you and I are fundamentally different. I keep my chastity like jade. Although all the women in the world are within reach, I don't touch them. I'm a saint of love, and my heart is focused on one person. Your Majesty, you have the heart, but not the strength. You have also caused a great waste of social resources. Tell me, aren't all the beauties in the harem idle? You're occupying the latrine, but not taking a shit. It's not that I'm scolding you, Your Majesty, but in life, they're only killing and manipulating. Your Majesty, you wanted to kill this great subject, but you couldn't. You allowed this subject to wander from the great wilderness to the capital in 100 different ways, but you couldn't do anything about it. And you can't do it anymore. You can't do it. You can't even touch a single one of these two major life events. Adding these two failures together, you've got two failures. It's like a hellish time. He said sincerely, look at how defeated you are. Why don't you commit suicide? The Emperor wished he could smash his dog's head with a punch. He lowered his voice and roared. Did you come all the way here just to tell me this? Get lost. Scram. Sun Lang waved the book in his hand and said, No, I'm here to promote this masterpiece to His Majesty. It's a masterpiece of surreal magic that can be passed down through the ages and be admired by future generations. Damn, it's a masterpiece of the feudal era. If it were to be passed down to the modern era, it would be auctioned off at a sky-high price. The Emperor shouted at the top of his lungs, Guards! Guards! Unfortunately, the sound in the bedchamber was blocked by Sun Lang and the devil. Not a single sound could be heard. Sun Lang still smiled and said, Your Majesty, are you sure you don't want to read it? This comic is very good. After Empress finished reading it, she excitedly forgave His Imperial Highness the Crown Prince. The two of them stayed in Ju Chen's house for a long time. Unfortunately, they are not related by blood. Hey, what do you think this is? The Emperor glared and shouted, Ho Ji, throw him out. In the void, the devil said, That's enough. Sun Lang smiled and said, That's nothing. I still have. Before he could finish, the devil said faintly, I have a piece of news here. Do you want to hear it? Sun Lang raised his eyebrows and said, What news? The devil's tones seemed to contain a hint of a smile. Not long ago, the Tensei province mobilized a large number of people. Empress surrendered. The civil and military officials left Dingyuan in a grandiose manner. Hearing this, Sun Lang's expression suddenly changed. Without saying anything, he turned and walked out of the door. The Emperor and the devil watched him push open the door and leave. Just as they were about to say something, Sun Lang shouted at the door, Your Majesty can't make it. Suddenly, there was an uproar outside. The imperial physician, the chief eunuch, and the general of the imperial guards rushed in. Before they could save the crying emperor, they saw His Majesty sitting on the edge of the bed. His skin was rosy, his eyes were wide open, and his expression was agitated. In short, he looked full of vigor. Where are the signs of dying? Both sides looked at each other. The emperor was stunned for half a beat. He seemed to realize that he was still playing the role of a patient. He immediately rushed to the bed and took only a short second to pose for a peaceful death. The atmosphere froze. No one said anything. No one dared to move. The emperor finally realized what had happened. He also realized that when Sun Lang said, "Your Majesty can't make it," he did not mean that his life was in danger. Traitor! Bastard! Bastard! What shrewdness, what forbearance, what stratagems, everything was thrown to the back of his mind. The emperor cursed loudly in front of a group of palace people. In the void, the devil sighed silently, not pretending anymore. Announcing that his body had recovered, he was going to take charge again and return to the front of the stage, directly confronting Sun Lang face to face. Was this his intention? Also, that picture album, he had glanced at it a few times before. When he saw the page full of filth, he knew what it was. After all, humans were a species that was easily driven by low-level desires. Because of primitive and vulgar desires, they had made countless mistakes. But they were passionate about it and never tired of it. Everyone was like this. As an extraterrestrial life form, the devil was not very interested in these things. Before this, he had heard that Sun Lang had painted a long mural in his home, but he did not know the content. The emperor had also heard that although the emperor was recuperating, he still maintained control of the situation in secret. It was just that it was not convenient for him to get the specific content for a while. Now that such a thing had happened and Sun Lang had used that kind of thing to make fun of him, the emperor was probably disgusted with this picture album. Well, now was not the time to think about this. This thought only flashed for a moment before it was put aside by the devil. There were still many important things. For example, the body chosen by the emperor was becoming more and more disobedient. After Sun Lang was playful for a while, he strode out of the palace. He ran quickly all the way without stopping. The guards were already very familiar with him. Seeing his angry face, they let him go. A loyal soldier with a strong sense of responsibility came out to stop him, but he was scolded in the face. "What are you investigating? If I assassinated the emperor, would I run out in such a hurry?" The implication was that if he had done such a big thing, he would have slashed his way out. The other party was also shocked. He was pulled to the side by his colleagues and could only watch as Sun Lang swaggered off. After Sun Lang went out, he saw several groups of people guarding the palace gate. They looked very anxious. When they saw Sun Lang, they hurriedly greeted him. Seeing this, General Shansei said concisely, "Is it about Empress?" Everyone nodded quickly. F***CK. Sun Lang's face was as calm as water. He stepped on the ground and rushed into the sky. On the official road outside the city, a fight caused a traffic jam. Fully armed soldiers blocked all the carriages and pedestrians. Everything that happened here was unknown to outsiders. The conflict had ended, and the atmosphere became very strange. The people on both sides faintly formed a circle and looked at the center. Two women stood opposite each other with indifferent expressions. They seemed to be talking about something. After listening for a while, they heard a faint rumbling sound coming from the horizon. Sword Chi was awe-inspiring, crossing the mountains and rivers. An overwhelming and fierce aura caused the faces of the soldiers who had experienced hundreds of battles to change. Even the well-trained war horses neighed uneasily. Everyone raised their heads and saw Sun Lang riding on the wind and arriving with Sword Chi. When he landed, his cold eyes swept around. Everyone in Shinto province said in unison, "Greetings, Marshal." The people in Tensei province looked stern as if they were facing a great enemy. Sun Lang turned around and looked at the two women. Inluo and Empress stood side by side. Empress's face was as calm as water. She still didn't say a word. Inluo, on the other hand, showed a surprised smile. "You are here." Sun Lang came in front of her without saying a word. He directly grabbed the arm of the power armor and pulled Inluo behind him. He looked at Empress coldly. "Stay away from her." Chapter 1147. Stay away from her. Sun Lang's tone was close to a reprimand. The cold disgust and even hostility he showed could be seen at a glance. It could be said that he had no feelings at all. The people who witnessed this scene, whether it was the subordinates of Tensei province, Shinto province, or Sun Lang's old friends in the army, couldn't help but sigh in their hearts at this moment. This pair of lovers who were once intimately blessed and recognized by the six armies had indeed parted ways now. It was a complete break, and there was no room for recovery. It was only when they saw the scene before their eyes that they realized this point. They couldn't go back. Sun Lang and Empress were absolutely irreconcilable. The decisive battle would continue until one of them fell. Even the civil and military officials of Tensei province sighed bitterly in their hearts. Since it was already over, why did they still come to suffer from Sun Lang's attitude? They didn't understand the motives and feelings of the commander, just as they didn't understand why Her Highness betrayed Sun Lang back then. They never understood. It was just that no one dared to ask. Wei Zheng said loudly, "Your Highness, it's getting late. Let's go back." But now that Sun Lang had already come and had displayed a cold hostility that kept people at a distance of 1,000 miles, there was no longer any meaning in staying here. Seeing her former lover protecting another woman and glaring at her coldly and angrily, even the most unyielding woman in the world would not be able to bear it. That was why Wei Zheng advised her. Even if she had to leave in such an awkward and embarrassing manner, it was better than continuing to suffer here. He had made up his mind to take Her Highness away, even if he had to pull her. But Empress seemed to be stronger than everyone thought. General Tian Su's waist was straight. Although her battle robe was stained with dirt from the fight just now, it did not affect her awe-inspiring temperament. Rather, the dirt on her body gave her the aura of a battle-hardened general who had been through hundreds of battles and pressed forward courageously. She looked at the man in front of her and the woman behind him calmly. "It seems," Empress said, "you really care about her." "Yes," Sun Lang said coldly. "I care about her very much. I care about her so much that if she was injured just now, all of you would die here. Do you understand?" Empress said indifferently. "Then you have to protect her well. You don't have to worry about that." Sun Lang's tone became colder and colder. "Protecting her is not a difficult thing, because I only need to guard against the malice and swords from the outside world, and I don't have to worry about her stabbing me in the back. She is a little stupid fool, has a sense of propriety, and has her own opinions. She doesn't think too much about complicated things and has no ambition. She is a very simple girl, much better than you." The Emperor's concubine happily nodded her head. "So, you chose an ordinary woman who won't compete with you, won't surpass you, has no ambition, no desire for power, is weak, and likes to rely on you. This way, you can happily display your dignity as a man, strength, and desire to protect. If you're successful, she'll worship you. If you're idle, she'll protect you. I think you're more inclined to the latter, because you're a lazy and useless person deep down. Your responsibilities are imposed on you by the outside world. You're not willing to take responsibility, and you're lazy and undisciplined." "Well said." Sun Lang smiled. "Looks like the noble Empress concubine is forgetful. You've forgotten Sun Lang's background. You and I aren't from the same world. Since we can't get along, we naturally part ways. I'm not as caring as you. I'm not as broad-minded as you. I'm just a useless, ordinary person. I don't need to be promising. As long as I have a sword, I can protect myself even if the sky collapses. As long as there are a few people, we will know each other regardless of whether it is cold or warm. You don't like such a life, but I do." He smiled, but his eyes were as sharp as swords. "Also, not only do I want to enjoy such a life, but I also want to screw up the choice you made. If you want to go back with the wind and not be afraid of the high altitude and the cold, I will collapse your building and bury you in it to make a grave for you." His words were like knives, and his words were like swords. Although the attitude of the two parties could be said to be peaceful, and they did not make a scene, they did not jump and curse, and they did not fight. However, the back and forth of the words seemed to be filled with extremely sharp boldness. Even the audience who had been through hundreds of battles felt that it was unbearable at this moment. They even wanted to cover their ears and hide in a corner. In the almost frozen atmosphere of Sun Ran, Zhang Yinluo was the only one who gently took off the cumbersome gauntlet of the power armor. She pulled Sun Lang's collar with her slender hand and said in a low voice, "Stop talking." Empress looked at the place where their bodies touched, and her eyes focused. Sun Lang looked back at her. The sun ran killing intent in his eyes, melting like snow. Okay. He took the opportunity to grab the girl's hand. Inluo blushed and glanced at Empress subconsciously. She mumbled, I am still wearing the power armor. The Sunfire power armor was the top individual combat equipment for the Knights of the Fire Order. It was a hideous and cool iron lump. Standing next to Inluo in the armor, Sun Lang looked like a younger brother. The scene of them holding hands was a little comical. However, Sun Lang didn't care about this and insisted on pulling Inluo's hand. He didn't bother about Her Highness the Empress concubine and treated the heavenly policy manner as if it was nothing. He turned around and shouted, All right, stop dawdling. The sun is about to set. Let's quickly set off for the capital. Zhao Yunlong jumped over without a sound and flashed to Sun Lang's left side. She quietly activated her mystic arts and mobilized the strength of the Imperial Army to resist the invasion of the Great Protection Force. Then, she grabbed Sun Lang's arm and turned back to smile smugly at Empress. Just now, she left with Sun Lang arrogantly, her long ponytail swinging. The henchmen of Shinto province cheered loudly. The long line started moving again. The people of Tensei province pinched their noses and made way for them. No one said anything, but they were all angry. What was His Highness here for? They did not want to fight or an argument. They made way for them with their tails between their legs. They were not in a good mood. What was he after? The flag of Shinto province fluttered in the wind. The horses galloped and the wheels turned. The people of Tensei province looked at each other and saw great confusion in their eyes. Then they turned their eyes. His Highness Empress was standing far away with his back to them. No one knew what he was thinking. Wei Zheng and Qin Xiong exchanged a look and approached carefully to check on His Highness. But they were stopped 10 steps away by General Tensei. Don't come any closer, Empress said with his back to them. His tone was very calm. Sun Lang, Master Lu, Miss Zhao, and the rest of the people were all happy to see each other. Miss Zhao chattered like a lark and told Sun Lang about what had happened in Ming Province in the past few months. Lu Shujin sat next to them. Although there was no joy on her face, she glanced at Sun Lang from time to time. Courier ended the sky cruise and asked Sun Lang excitedly when he was going to do something. The kingdom of Lifefire was located in the north of Huto Earth. They regarded the Empire as their biggest imaginary enemy and competitor. As a top character of the Order of Flames, Miss Mao had always dreamed of stepping into the capital of Huto Earth. Sun Lang chatted with them and answered their questions. He told them about what had happened in the past few months. However, he was a little absent-minded and looked outside subconsciously. Inluo had been listening quietly the whole time. Suddenly, he said, It's not good for you to stay here all the time. The Lord are all outside. Go and greet them. Sun Lang was stunned for a moment before he came back to himself. Oh, it's fine. They all understand me and won't care about such trifles. Besides, I've seen them face to face every day for the past 2 months. I'm tired of it. There's no need to be polite. Inluo insisted. It's polite. It's better be careful. They came to welcome us and even fought with the people of Tensei province. Let's go and take a look. As for us, it won't be too late to talk at night. Sun Lang did not insist after hearing that. He said goodbye and jumped out of the car. Inluo waited for a while and stood up too. I'll go and take a look. Zhao Feihuang pouted. Are you going to sneak away again? That being said, she did not move away. Of course not, Inluo said softly. I'm just concerned about something. Chapter 1148. As soon as Sun Lang came out, all the people on horseback looked at him and laughed. Someone then shouted, Commander-in-Chief, you're so fast. Another person then pretended to be angry and said, What nonsense are you talking about? Commander-in-Chief keeps his chastity like jade and cleans his body. His primordial young child technique is unrivaled in the world. He wants to be #1 in the world for the rest of his life. Sun Lang rolled his eyes and said, Your mother's fart. Your father is the one cultivating the child technique. As for what kind of divine technique Jia Ing, the commander of war, was cultivating, It had always been an unsolved mystery in the Tianyuan army. After all, Hodu was a country of martial arts, so everyone was very interested in this kind of matter. Among the many guesses, the most popular one was naturally an extremely formidable child technique. Those who successfully cultivated it could walk unrivaled in the world, but Gul'dan said that one had to pay a price to become strong. The price was naturally to not break the precepts, to keep one's chastity like jade, to not get close to women. That was why the commander of war said he wanted it, but his body was very proper, spouting dirty jokes all day long, but he didn't touch a single hair on the Chow Patao. It had to be said that this guess was reasonable and convincing, even though Sun Lang denied it with all his might, saying today he cultivated the marrow cleansing scripture. Tomorrow he would say he cultivated the blood child, undying body. Although no one knew what kind of technique it was, they didn't believe it at all. If it's not the child technique, why are you so honest? Normally, when you talk about the brothel, your eyes will shine, but when you're really dragged there will be a set of military rules and morality. This joke had accompanied the commander of war's military career from beginning to end. Now that he brought it up again, it was rather nostalgic. Everyone roared with laughter, and someone deliberately shouted loudly, "If you don't cultivate the child technique, why don't you get close to women? You're even more disciplined than the monks of Sanskrit temple. Why don't you just go to the temple and have your head shaved?" Sun Lang opened his eyes wide and said, "Why are you slandering my chastity? That's because I have a high cultivation level. That kind of thing can only be done with my own wife after marriage. Who would be like you, throwing your pure bodies into those filthy brothels? Don't you think it's dirty?" Immediately, a group of winners in life showed their marriage history, from the main wife to the concubines, and said that it was great to F***CK one's wife at home, and asked why the marshal was not married yet. Sun Lang's face turned red, and he loudly defended himself, saying some words that were difficult to understand, such as the basic law of marriage, the revolution has not yet succeeded, and defeat feudal imperialism. The cheerful atmosphere continued to spread. Everyone made fun of him while winking at him, because the General Shin's dangerous situation still hadn't passed. Originally, Sun Lang had already arranged everything properly. He was overseeing the imperial palace, living in seclusion behind the scenes, while everyone went out of the city to welcome him and provide him with frantic assistance. He only needed to mention a bit about Sun Lang's current predicament and dangerous situation, arousing the worry and anxiety of Yin Luo and the others, diverting their attention so that they had no time to pay attention to the fart thing Sun Lang had done these past few days. Then, this matter could be considered an extremely peaceful conclusion. Unfortunately, for some reason, Empress Tensei went crazy, unexpectedly running out to interfere. Sun Lang was afraid that things would get out of hand, so he went straight out of the city. With a resolute attitude of not caring about their old friendship, he forced the other party to leave. However, although the current crisis had passed, the hidden threat still existed. If there were any more unforeseen events along the way, perhaps Sun Lang would have to kneel on the washboard tonight. Everyone was well aware of this, but they did not speak loudly. They only reminded Sun Lang, with teasing eyes and meaningful expressions, and expressed the central idea of "we want to cause trouble." Sun Lang smiled proudly, took out a metal can from his arms, and mouthed silently, "This is food. It can be eaten, but it smells worse than shit. Do you see the fleet behind? There's a car full of this." Everyone's expression suddenly became horrified and pained. These ministers were all well-informed people. They immediately thought of the night when Hikari Kensei Wei Shiha went crazy and the rumor that related palace guards leaked out that someone threw shit into the palace. They immediately believed Sun Lang's words a little, especially Yin Song and Android, who almost screwed up today's matter. Both of them shrank back. Sun Lang breathed a sigh of relief after scaring away the restless people. His tensed mind finally relaxed, and the anxiety and panic in his heart slowly dissipated. After hearing the news that Empress went out of the city, he did not even have time to think about whether the devil's words were true or not, and rushed here as fast as he could. It had been a long time since he lost his composure and was so anxious. He was wary of Empress, hostile to Empress, and did not want her to meet Luo and the others. He was not afraid that Empress would tell Luo about his great achievements, nor was he worried that Empress would make some annoying reports. He was just worried that Empress had some conspiracy, worried that Luo would be fooled, and worried that something bad would happen. His concern for them overcame his petty thoughts. So when everything was fine, he breathed a sigh of relief, and his heart was full of peace and tranquility. As long as everything was fine, everything was fine. Yes, the Copper Sparrow Pavilion and Pingyang were just some small problems. And, hearing the noise and laughter of the crowd, Sun Lang looked around and inadvertently looked behind him. His heart was slightly moved. Although the convoy had already traveled some distance, he still looked behind him, as if he was bored to death, or as if he was looking for someone's shadow. Suddenly, he heard a question with a smile. "Where are you looking at?" Sun Lang suddenly came back to his senses, and his face seamlessly switched to a nonchalant smile. "Yo, Luo, I haven't seen you for a few months, and you've grown up again." After not seeing Sun Lang for a few months, the girl was not used to hearing Sun Lang's dirty talk. But when she heard it again, she still blushed. She had not yet learned the skill of listening to Sun Lang's dirty talk without changing her expression. Fortunately, the people who were traveling with Sun Lang were tactful and immediately shouted, "Let's go, let's go, let's go to the front. Let this son of a b asterisk tisich eat some dust at the back." After everyone left, Luo rolled his eyes and said, "You want to die? What are you talking about?" General Shunsei smiled and extended his hand, inviting the girl to ride with him, but he was met with another eye roll. "In your dreams." Sun Lang withdrew his hand and smiled foolishly while rubbing his head. Luo waited for 3 seconds and saw him smiling foolishly. She snorted and also jumped onto a horse, came to Sun Lang's side, and raised her leg to kick him. Sun Lang let her kick. Of course, it was very light. He did not even use the soles of his shoes, just a light nudge. He sniffed the girl's faint fragrance and smiled. "This reminds me of a game called Violent Motorcycle." Luo did not pay attention to what Violent Motorcycle was and asked again, "What were you looking at just now?" Sun Lang's tried and tested technique of using flirtatious words containing earth memes to arouse the curiosity of others to achieve the purpose of changing the topic had failed. Without changing his expression, he said, "Look at my picturesque landscape." The technique of using rebellious remarks against the court to shock and panic the citizens of the Imperium to achieve the purpose of changing the topic worked. After all, Luo was a proper citizen of the Imperium, and his mind had not been completely reformed yet. He did not have the revolutionary spirit to fight against the Emperor. She was so scared that she immediately looked around to make sure that nobody heard it. Then, she lowered her voice and said, "Do you want to die? How can you say something like that so casually?" Sun Lang chuckled and said, "That's right, I can't say it casually. After all, it's just empty talk now. It's just empty talk. When I really take the throne and sit in the royal court, what I say will be the real deal. Yes, when I become the emperor, Luo, you will be the empress. Then I can hold your hand and wave my hand at the top of the city wall. I can tell you, look, this is the country that I have fought for you." His words were very skillful. First, he followed the loopholes in Luo's words, which was very easy to cause the other party to refute and add on. At the same time, he also strengthened the remarks of, "I want to marry you," and "I want to give the world to you," which were very easy to confuse women with sweet words like, "I want to marry you," and "I want to give you the world," which were very easy to control the topic. It could be said that General Shansei, who had a strong desire to survive, was already performing beyond his usual level. However, Luo seemed to be deep in thought and said faintly, "I heard that Her Highness Empress is a popular candidate for the Crown Prince. If she becomes the Empress, and if you, as an old flame, are fated with her, it will be your turn to be Empress." Holy shit! Sun Lang almost spat out. He stared at Luo and said, "How can you have such dangerous thoughts?" The girl laughed and said, "Okay, I'm just kidding. She glanced behind her. Although she could no longer see the silhouette, humans were like this. They always held on to the impossible and tried to find something that was impossible to find. Sun Lang frowned slightly and looked at Yin Luo, only to see a tear in the girl's eye. He was surprised and asked, "What's wrong?" Yin Luo forced a smile and then sighed softly, "Just a little sad?" Sun Lang was startled and then smiled bitterly. "You feel that what I said before was too hurtful? You feel that it was a little too much?" The girl shook her head and said in a low voice, "In the past, I only saw you as a sharp-tongued and full of nonsense. You could make people speechless and fly into a rage when you laugh and curse. Today is the first time I saw you speak seriously and hurt people deeply with your words. What you said made me feel that it was a little too much as a bystander. So, I was thinking to be able to make you say such words. How much unforgettable pain must you have suffered back then to be able to completely cut off the feelings of the past?" As she spoke, she gently wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes. Then, she looked at Sun Lang and said softly, "It must have been very hard. Even your mood right now must be very bad." The smile on Sun Lang's face gradually disappeared, and he fell silent. After a while, he said, "That is indeed the reason humans have compassion. For example, when you see a criminal who has committed many crimes suffering retribution, being bloody and dismembered, unable to live or die, listening to his screams and wails, most people would feel that it was too cruel. But that is just a very normal compassion. You feel that it is too cruel because you saw him wailing in pain, but you did not see the pleasure when he committed the crime. You did not see the desperate begging and pain of the victim, and you did not see the sorrow and curses of the victim's family members day and night. They may even feel that the executioner did not cut him into pieces enough. For me, it is like this. She is not innocent. She is not innocent at all. Everything has a cause, and there will be an effect. She has to bear the corresponding consequences for some things that she has done. There are some things that I have to do as long as I am alive." His voice was low but firm. That was an old grudge that had been sealed for more than 10 years, a new hatred that had been suppressed for 3 years. How could he let it go? He could not let it go. "Is that so?" Yin Luo sighed in a low voice. "I know that you have a reason for everything you do. I know that with your personality, if you can't let it go, then you really can't let it go. Of course, you could do whatever you think you must do, but I also have my own thoughts. I want you to protect yourself well. Don't go the wrong way. Don't become someone I don't know. Don't let us become like the two of you." Sun Lang looked at her, and she also looked back. Then he said in a low voice, "No. As long as you are here, it won't. That's good. That's enough." The two rode side by side, letting the wind blow at a neither fast nor slow speed. "Her Highness Empress, what kind of person is she? A bad person. It can't be so absolute. How can a person be a bad person inside and out? She is such a bad person. Umph. If she is a bad person, how could she have made you fall head over heels for her? No. Are you jealous? Of course not. I'm just a little curious." After saying that, the two of them fell silent at the same time. After a while, Sun Lang said, "Don't be curious, and don't have any contact with her. I was scared today because I was afraid that she would use some underhanded means." Yin Luo shook her head and said, "But I didn't feel any evil intentions." Sun Lang rolled his eyes and said, "You silly girl, you don't know what's important and what's not. You were betrayed, but you still helped to count the money. What evil intentions do you feel? Can you feel it?" Yin Luo said angrily, "I'm not that silly. What did I not know what I was doing?" Sun Lang snorted and said, "You didn't? Back in Mingzhou, you were even willing to take out the Jinghong sword to ask me to save a female cat burglar who was swindling and doing bad things. Isn't that silly?" When they talked about the past when they first met, there was a hint of sweetness in his heart. Yin Luo thought about the things that happened back then and suddenly smiled. Her beautiful face contained a myriad of emotions. She smiled and said, "Do you think I lost out on this deal?" Sun Lang was stunned for a moment. Then he understood what the girl meant. He smiled and said, "You didn't lose out. I didn't expect you to be so scheming. You only used the Imperial Army sword and successfully tricked me. You're really a little genius. Inluo glared at him. You think you lost out? How could I? Sun Lang smiled and held her hand. I didn't lose out either. This is called a win-win situation. Chapter 1149. Under the blue sky, in the gentle breeze, two hands were holding each other. Sun Lang and Inluo looked at each other and smiled. The separation of several months did not create estrangement. Their souls were even more intimate. It was only a very short reunion, and the unfamiliarity of not seeing each other for a long time had already quietly dissipated. It was as if they had never been separated. He did not change. She also did not change. Sun Lang's lips curved into a gentle smile. The anger and hostility that had accumulated since he entered the capital had silently subsided. As long as he held her hand, as long as he was by her side, his heart would calm down. He would not be troubled by his past obsessions, and would not be controlled by his old hatred, because she would stay by his side, tolerate him, warm him, comfort him, and heal him. As long as she was by his side, there was nothing to worry about. The souls that relied on each other could embrace each other. A little bit of selfishness and concealment were meaningless, because she would not care at all. Thinking about the anxiety and fooling around these days, thinking about the feelings of gain and loss that had troubled him for a long time, all those little tricks, concealment, and selfishness, it all seemed so laughable now. Sun Lang said softly, "All right, Inluo, I've done some things these days." The girl smiled, and there seemed to be stars in her eyes. What? The boy who had reunited with his lover after a long separation said, after a while. What? A mixture of surprise, doubt, and even anger cut through the air, startling the birds on both sides of the road, startling the horses on the road, and startling the followers of Shinto province who frequently turned their heads to peek, almost falling off their horses. The so-called Zhongfei roared with a longboard, and its power was probably just like this. The wheel of history, due to the arrogance of an old driver, quietly turned over. Unbelievable! Inluo's voice contained a rush of anger. Facts had proven that women were women after all. It was their nature to be jealous, pretentious, and emotional. The things that were written in books were all lies. Gentle, virtuous, generous, considerate, virtuous, and uncompetitive women did not exist. In a luxurious carriage that Miss Zhao had specially customized, the girls were gathered in a circle. Sun Lang sat on the side with downcast eyes. Just now, Sun Lang's emotions had been stirred up. He was immersed in the recovery of the special scene, the breakthrough in favorability, and the great success of spiritual connection. He wanted to be a Casanova, but after all, he was too young and too naive. Sometimes, things were too simple, and he didn't understand. The standard of leniency for those who confess, jail time for those who resist, and go home for the new year was not only applicable to the hypocritical and backward capitalist legal system, but also to the relationships between men and women. So that's how it was. After listening to a few sentences, Inluo's face immediately changed. She was a good girl. She didn't flare up in public and embarrass Sun Lang, but she still walked back to the car with a dark face, leaving Sun Lang in a mess. He wanted to slap himself 18 times. What was he talking about? He hurriedly chased after her, wanting to explain. Inluo didn't plan on letting Sun Lang into the carriage, but Miss Zhao was a collaborator and immediately opened the back door. Sun Lang rushed in. Inluo was filled with anger and immediately criticized and reprimanded him. I thought that you were surrounded by enemies in the capital and that every step was difficult. I didn't think that you were actually so dissolute and happy. The girl angrily snorted. No wonder that General refused to say what you did no matter what. After she finished criticizing Sun Lang's crimes, she looked around, trying to get support from the other girls to criticize Sun Lang, this messy scoundrel. But of everyone present, other than the housekeeper of Marquis Jinggan Fu, Su Qingwan, who was always on guard against Sun Lang, who revealed that I already knew that you weren't a good thing, vigilant gaze, the reactions of the others were out of Inluo's expectations. It's just this matter. Ms. Zhao used her small hand to support her chin and rolled her eyes at Yin Luo, making a fuss over nothing. When a man of status goes to a brothel to socialize, he can make friends with famous people and spread his name. Back then, my father often went to Ming Zhou's brothel to drink, but I didn't see my mother say anything. Zhao Yunlong excitedly scratched her ears and cheeks, continuously asking Sun Lang about the specific details of that night's attack on the Copper Sparrow Terrace. She was so excited that her entire body trembled. Then she revealed an expression of disappointment and pity. As the great general of Songzhou, she had heard about the details of the Copper Sparrow Terrace, so she was clear on just how great of a feat Sun Lang had accomplished. Because of her nature, Zhao Yunlong was very enthusiastic about setting fire to houses and forcefully demolishing places. She truly felt deeply regretful that she wasn't able to personally witness this grand event. Now that she had already come to Sun Lang's side, then there was only one question left. The next time you cause trouble, when will it be? She impatiently asked. Miss Mao nodded furiously on the side. If Zhao Yunlong was just excited, then Courier was exhilarated. This Miss Mao was the ace pilot of the Lihua Kingdom, and she always dreamed of sweeping the Hutu Kingdom and dominating the world. When she heard about Sun Lang's magnificent feat of mobilizing troops to the capital and surrounding the Copper Sparrow Terrace, she was instantly soaked in tears. It was too damn exciting. And Master Lu also nodded. Well done. Seeing that his allies were zero, Yin Luo shouted, What are you talking about? That Copper Sparrow Terrace is a brothel. Why don't you care at all? Lu Shujin said, as if nothing had happened. What's there to care about? Anyway, he doesn't dare to touch any of the women inside. Chi Sun Lang clutched his chest. It hurts. I think you should vent your anger a little, really. When Yin Luo saw the pitiful look on Sun Lang's face, she almost burst out laughing, but she immediately put on a straight face. No matter what, this matter sounded too vile. How ridiculous. She's making trouble out of nothing. Miss Zhao helped by the side. I've heard of the reputation of that Copper Sparrow Terrace. It's the #1 brothel in the world, the #1 brothel in the capital, a place that all the famous masters in the world yearn for. Normal people can't even enter if they want to. How capable is Sun Lang to be able to snatch this place? This is like pulling a tooth out of a dragon's mouth. She looked at Sun Lang, her eyes shining, and said, Sun Lang, I was just worrying about what business to buy in the capital, so that our Shinto province won't run out of money. I didn't expect you to have already considered this matter and snatched this treasure bowl in one go. With this Copper Sparrow Terrace as a foundation, our business and real estate in the capital will be much wider, and we won't even need to rely on your tiger skin. Yin Luo saw that the situation was not going well and slammed the table. You're also a woman. That kind of place treats women like goods for men to play with. And you still want to open a brothel to make money? Ms. Zhao curled her lips and said, Hypocrite, the brothels treat women as playthings to be manipulated, but those textile mills, those fields and woodlands, those mines and stone quarries, which one of them doesn't treat men as livestock to be manipulated to make money? You have such a heart. Why don't you care about them? All living things suffer. This is fate, and you can't blame others. In any case, I treat everyone equally, and whatever money I make, it's all black-hearted money, as long as it's money. In terms of twisted logic, even Teninloas would not be able to win against Miss Zhao. The girl choked and then stared at Sun Lang, as if she wanted to see what he would say. Sun Lang carefully said, Yin Luo, if you don't like it, then forget it. Miss Zhao snorted. That's fine. The Copper Sparrow Terrace is the world's #1 brothel, and the women there are all talented and beautiful. They have been raised as flower vases since they were young, and other than pleasing men, they don't know anything else, and they are used to living a life of luxury. The Copper Sparrow Terrace can be closed, but they have nowhere to go. They can either be taken into the rooms of high officials or go to other brothels to work. Hoping that they can turn over a new leaf and live a simple life of plain tea, wooden hairpins, and thistle dresses is just a daydream. She glanced at Sun Lang, and deliberately said, "So, for their own good, we should close the Copper Sparrow Terrace, and then take them in a Shinto province to be raised as singers and beautiful maids, so that they won't be treated like goods to be played with. It's also a great merit. Isn't that right, Miss Zhang?" Inluo choked again, and was so angry that the stones in his chest flew into the air, and raging waves hit the shore, rolling up 1,000 piles of snow. Sun Lang said softly, "That's not necessary." Zhao Fei Huang asked curiously, "Then how does Sun plan to deal with them?" Sun Lang sighed. "I thought about it, and it's better to return everything to how it was. The Copper Sparrow Terrace was given to me by His Majesty the Emperor, but I am a gentleman, an honest and capable official. I can't accept this bribe, so after thinking about it, there's only one solution," he said seriously. "I want to sell the Copper Sparrow Terrace to His Majesty the Emperor, according to the market price." Zhao Fei Huang was stunned for a moment, and then laughed out loud. She pointed at Sun Lang, and just as she was about to say something, she heard the sound of horse hooves approaching from outside. Someone shouted in the distance, "Marshal, someone from the palace is coming." Chapter 1150. Someone from the palace had arrived. The originally relaxed atmosphere immediately froze. The Emperor. Pressure from the 1,000-year-old imperial power. Sun Lang's opponent was the most powerful person in the world. Even though the girls had long been mentally prepared for this, the moment they entered the capital, the Emperor's pressure hit them in the face. Other than Zhao Yunlong, the expressions of everyone else more or less changed slightly. Sun Lang immediately smiled and said, "Ah, the Emperor has come to buy a brothel." His relaxed and leisurely attitude infected everyone and shattered that bit of restraint and fear. Yes, the imperial power was powerful, but they also trusted Sun Lang, trusted this man. Inluo couldn't be bothered to be angry. "You're still joking at a time like this?" Although she trusted Sun Lang, she still felt worried. She couldn't help but complain, "You're a general of the court, and you've made such a big show to welcome us. This is already considered a private mobilization of troops. Even if I don't involve myself in politics, I know that this is a great topic of ridicule. Your enemies will certainly use this as a basis to madly impeach and attack you. You should be careful and cautious in court and consolidate at every step. Why do you have to do such an unnecessary thing?" Sun Lang shook his head and said, "It's fine." Inluo furrowed her brows and said, "How is this fine?" "It's fine." Sun Lang smiled. "Don't underestimate me. If the Emperor wants to bring down the current me, he can't rely on these little things. Even if I stand upright and abide by the law like a saint, the Emperor and the small fries will think of ways to frame me. Since this is the case, why do I have to be low-key and careful?" He didn't get out of the carriage and directly yelled out the window, "Tell the people from the palace to scram to the side. I want to accompany my wife today. No matter how big the matter is, I don't care. Tell them not to bother me." Inluo's pretty face turned red. She angrily said, "Who's your wife?" Zhao Fei Huang jumped up with a cry and raised his hand. I am." The people outside shouted and then said, "I heard that the Emperor has recovered." Sun Lang rolled his eyes and said, "If he recovers, then so be it. Do you want me to send him a flower basket? It's all thanks to me that the Emperor can walk now. If I didn't treat him seriously today, would he be able to move so quickly? Oh, damn it, I almost forgot. Go and tell those eunuchs to remember to collect money from the Emperor. I made 2 bells in the palace today." Inluo asked in surprise, "What's wrong, Your Majesty?" The assassination of the Emperor involved the dignity of the country and the stability of the people. It also involved the 7 luminaries sword saint, who represented the confidence of the people. Naturally, the news was sealed. Inluo and the others had been busy with their journey. Even if the officials along the way heard the news, they would not casually tell them. Sun Lang said casually, "Oh, it's nothing." The Emperor pretended to be attacked by assassins and was bedridden for many days. Pretending to be assassinated? The girls were dumbfounded. What was going on? Inluo mumbled, "Why did he have to pretend to be attacked by assassins?" Sun Lang gave him a thumbs up and said, "Of course, he was forced into a corner by me. I almost grabbed his neck and pressed him to the guillotine. In order to get rid of the disadvantage, he used a little trick to escape. He took the opportunity to be assassinated and fell unconscious. He left the whirlpool of politics and left the chessboard in a detached manner. Then how'd he recover now? Sun Lang was even more proud. Of course it was because I pissed him off. Oh no, because I treated him with electricity. Luo couldn't help but sigh. How many terrible things have you done? Sun Lang said solemnly. What are you talking about? I did it for justice and peace. Yes, 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 Luo sighed again. As expected, he was still very worried. I can already imagine how you ran amok in the capital these days. I already said that the capital is different from Mingzhou. I advise you to be kind to others and be careful with your words and actions, but you didn't listen. Aren't you afraid that someone won't be able to stand it and will seek justice for the heavens? Sun Lang said proudly, Who dares to kill me? Who dares to kill me? Who dares to kill me? Luo snorted. Not to mention that there are many old officials and generals in the court. The 7 luminary sword saint is guarding the capital and protecting the national treasure. They are admired by the whole world. They defend the law and order of the court. You are a traitor. Sun Lang pulled out the sacred fire sword and waved it in front of Luo. Thank you for the compliment. I am the fire sword saint, and I am willing to rebel against the Li clan for generations to come. The blazing flames exuded an astonishing heat, causing Luo's startling sword to hum in fear. The appearance of this sword had been spread all over the world. Even if it was hard to believe, Luo had to admit that the sword in Sun Lang's hand was indeed the fire sword. She said in shock, This the fire sword. Where did you steal it from? Nonsense, Sun Lang said. I clearly stole it. Yes, I said it wrong. It was a slip of the tongue. I didn't steal it. The previous emperor of the Imperial Ancestral Temple showed himself and appointed me as the Fire Sword Saint. It was difficult to refuse, so I could only recite a poem. Sun Lang very humbly pulled out the other gold glorious sacred sword. The 2 swords reflected each other's brilliance, illuminating his fair and clean face. He was showing off over there. But I already have the golden luminary sword, so I have no choice but to dual wield it. How troublesome. There are too many sacred swords. Which one is the main weapon and which one is the secondary weapon? How should I distribute them? Luo touched the startling sword at her waist. It was the most common mass-produced Imperial Army sword. Compared to Sun Lang's sword, it was like the difference between Zhuge Liang and the star Zhuge Liang. Luo gritted her teeth and experienced the pain of being unlucky. She resisted the urge to give this fellow a stab with her spear. With a dark face, she refused to believe in the nonsense of the previous emperor's spirit. Sun Lang had said that he had snatched it from the beginning, so he must have snatched it. She said with a dark face, You're so arrogant. Don't the sword saints care? Who cares? Sun Lang counted with his fingers and said, The wood sword saint Mu Li is officially dead, but he's not. He's now a wanted criminal because he's suspected of assassinating the emperor. The previous fire sword Saint Qi Lianyan is dead. Hikari Kinsei Wei Shihe went crazy a few days ago. He's now in jail. The moon sword Saint Wei Wangshu is always running around and working hard. He wanted to use my connections and try to seduce me with his beauty. I rejected him righteously. Luo's eyes opened wider and wider. She said with a trembling voice, You did all of this? Sun Lang said with his eyes wide open, Wow, Luo, I'm so sad. Am I such a person in your mind? Although there's a little bit of my shadow in these incidents, I'm still a victim, okay? Someone framed me for the wood spirit incident. Qi Lianyan provoked me on the street. Wei Shi had chased after me and attacked me that night. Wei Wangshu was also an accomplice. I feel so wronged. Now they've all been punished by the heavens. That's the cycle of reincarnation. Even the heavens can't bear to see them bully an honest person like me. He put on an aggrieved, sad, and helpless look. He shrank his body and said in a low voice, Besides, look at these patterns. The 7 luminary sword saints have all been killed. As a newly promoted sword saint, am I also on the list of people to be killed? Luo, aren't you worried about me? Luo sighed heavily. She said, "The nation-protecting sword saint is just going to sit by and watch you do whatever you want." Hearing this, Zhao Yunlong and Lu Shujin twisted their bodies at the same time and changed their posture. Luo didn't understand the situation. She continued to criticize Sun Lang. "You're too reckless. I'm not saying you shouldn't take revenge, but you have to consider the consequences, right? You've been so ruthless from the start. What would the neutral people think if they saw this? Take the nation-protecting sword saint, for example. Although he's been in closed-door cultivation for the past 2 years, he must still care about the world. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used his sword in the northern pass during the decisive battle at the Great Desolate Mountain. If you make a big deal out of this, what will you do if he comes out of closed-door cultivation to deal with you?" Sun Lang raised his head and glanced at Luo. His expression was slightly hesitant. Luo was startled. She seemed to have thought of something. Then, her delicate body shook. It was as if she had been struck by lightning. The girl said in a trembling voice, "Could it be that the nation-protecting sword saint has also been killed by you?" "No," Sun Lang said in a low voice. "You might not believe it, but I'm him." Chapter 1151. "You may not believe it, but I'm him," Sun Lang whispered. Except for Lu Shujin and Zhao Yunlong, everyone else was stunned. The sword saint of the nation. He was a legend who came from the west and wiped out the great wilderness with his sword. He was a peerless national scholar who won the final battle of Tianyuan. He was a hero who transcended the boundaries of the human race. He was a legend whose name went down in history. He was a household name in the empire. In the eyes of Zhang Luo and Zhao Fei Huang, the sword saint of the nation was a legendary figure of their grandfather's generation. His white beard fluttered in the wind. He had white hair and a youthful complexion. His eyes shone with divine light. He held a peerless divine sword in his hand. He cared about the country and was extraordinary. He was the stabilizing force of this country and represented the ultimate guardian of martial arts. They looked at Sun Lang, their expressions a little sluggish. Sun Lang stretched out 2 fingers and made a victory sign at the corner of his eyes. "Yes, it's me." She looked so despicable. There was a crack. It was the sound of a girl's heart breaking. Luo was the kind of girl who chased after celebrities. She was very familiar with the Tianyuan Heroes series and greatly admired the heroes of Tianyuan. If the Imperial Court could turn the Tianyuan Heroes into a set of collectible cards similar to the 108 water margin character cards like Crispy Noodle's Little Raccoon, then Ms. Zhang would definitely collect all the versions for you. She respected and admired the heroes of Tianyuan, and the one she admired the most was the sword saint of the nation, the Hutu sword saint, who dominated the great wilderness mountain and ended the Great War of Tianyuan. To her, the sword saint of the Hutu sword saint was as precious and rare as Gao Qiu in the water margin card. He was her idol among idols. And now, she learned the shocking truth. Reuniting with Sun Lang and learning that Sun Lang was the nation-protecting sword saint. These 2 things added together did not give her double the joy, because the hero she had always admired was not the kind of proud, unparalleled saint who was dedicated to the country and had unparalleled elegance that she had imagined. Instead, he was a sloppy, lazy hooligan who always wanted to sleep with her. This feeling of disillusionment really made her have mixed feelings. Suddenly, Luo shuddered as if she had realized something. She looked at Sun Lang and said, "If that's the case, after the great battle, when the army returned to the imperial court, His Majesty led all the civil and military officials out of the city to welcome the sword saint of the nation." Sun Lang shrugged. "That wasn't me. The emperor found someone to impersonate me. He needed a fig leaf." Luo bit his lips. It was too much. In that instant, a huge sense of pity rose in her heart. The hero who had saved the world was actually unable to walk on the road to victory openly. While the people in the city who did not know the truth were cheering for a fake puppet, perhaps the real hero was lying in a muddy corner, silently licking his wounds. His eyes were filled with desolation, and he did not know the direction of the future. With a bang, Miss Zhao slammed the table. This is too much. It is said that the royal family is ruthless, but I didn't expect them to be so ruthless. Courier also sneered. Humph! Despicable people of the empire. If such a merit appeared in the divine right nation of flames, the church would directly canonize him as a saint, unlike Hutu. Zhao Yunlong glanced at her. Although she was Sun Lang's loyal follower, she was also an officer of the empire. She had the honor and pride of the strongest country in the world, so she absolutely would not allow barbarians to slander her country. She said coldly, "The rulers of the world are all selfish and heartless people. Is there an exception? If this happened in your divine right nation, it would be the same result. Would your divine emperor and the bishops allow a living saint with great merit and reputation to be above the church? It is normal to kill him and then canonize him as a saint." Courier raised his eyebrows and wanted to argue back, but he heard Luo say, "You have suffered." Sun Lang smiled. "It's not bitter now. It's their turn to suffer." Luo said faintly, "No wonder you are so obsessed with the emperor. No wonder you want revenge." In this regard, Sun Lang just shook his head gently and did not explain anything. The hatred between him and those people was far more than that. Luo took the initiative to reach out and cover Sun Lang's hand on the table. It was very rare for her to take the initiative to do this in front of everyone. She ignored Miss Zhao's envious and jealous eyes and said softly, I don't know what to say. Perhaps everyone owes you a thank you." Sun Lang chuckled. "Between us, there is no need to say thank you." Luo nodded lightly, yet the dense pity and pain in her heart still lingered at the bottom of her eyes, and it was simply an eruption of maternal love. If it wasn't for the surrounding people watching, she would simply wish for nothing more than to embrace Sun Lang in her arms and console him. At this moment, her mind was truly filled with Sun Lang, and her heart was filled with thoughts of how to console and enlighten him. The Copper Sparrow Pavilion, the 7 luminaries sword saint, all of them had been thrown to the back of her mind. The plan worked. Sun Lang smiled at Luo while inwardly breathing a sigh of relief. However, he was happy a little too early. The annoying sound of horse hooves rang out again. The messenger who had left and returned had come to disturb them. Sun Lang rolled his eyes. "What's wrong now?" The person outside spoke. It was actually Pongji. "Marshal." His voice was strange. "Please come out for a moment. There's something." "What the hell? Why do you have to go out and say it?" "I'm trying to make a good impression. This is a rare opportunity. I've already revealed my identity as the sword sage of the kingdom. Of course, I have to strike while the iron is hot. I have to tell him that Ping Yang is impersonating me and give her the identity of a victim of the palace intrigue. While Luo is immersed in heartache and touching emotions, I have to cut the Gordian knot and confess that Ping Yang is living in my house. After this matter is settled, I'll come back to Blackie Bao. Luo must have heard of Blackie Bao's great name. I'll make him sound more pitiful. He's in a dilemma between loyalty to the emperor and adherence to right and wrong. In the end, he decided to stand on the side of justice. Zhan Zhao, this cat girl, is just a liaison officer, just like a kitten. How can a beast man from the Green Wood Kingdom be considered a human? Sucking her is like sucking a cat. There's no need to be jealous, right? It's normal. Luo has also been abroad before. He has an international perspective. After this matter is settled, I will talk about the Dahuang Mountain. I have to mention Brother Zhan and highlight the friendship between us. He is my best brother. I locked his widow in the basement of my house because I wanted to learn from the past and save the future. How could I have any selfish motives? Brother Zhan, you don't need to worry about me. They all understand me. They will definitely forgive me, right? If I explain these things clearly, my life will be saved. There won't be any loopholes. This is the plan I spent 2 days coming up with. I want to cut the Gordian knot and make these things clear in the safest and most peaceful way. It's very good. So, don't disturb me, Pongji, you bastard. I'm in a life-and-death situation right now. This kind of operation needs to be done while the iron is hot. If it's interrupted halfway, the effect will be greatly reduced. Thinking of this, Sun Lang directly shouted. The Emperor's people haven't left yet? What's wrong with them? Is the Emperor going to die? If he's not dead, then tell them to leave. Why are you arguing with them? Panji whispered. Marshal, there's indeed something important. You should hurry up and come out. As the saying goes, if you care too much, you'll be confused. Sun Lang really cared too much about the survival of the moment and lost his usual judgment. He was anxious to continue with his plan to confess, so as to avoid meeting the end of the hatchet. At this moment, in his heart, this was the first priority. Everything else had to be pushed aside. So he shouted, What's the matter? Is the Emperor dead? No. Is the muddle-headed Emperor going to depose the Crown Prince? No. Is the muddle-headed Emperor going to slander the loyal and declare me a traitor? No. Is the wise Emperor going to abdicate the throne to me, who is famous all over the world? No. Is the scumbag Emperor going to depose the virtuous Empress? No. Is there a dog official in the court falsely accusing the pure and innocent lousy? No. Is anyone dead? No. Then what's the F***king important matter? The most important thing in the world today is to accompany my little darlings. Do you understand? These words were a bit mushy. Unfortunately, the women in the room more or less fell for it. Only Yin Luo was the most sensible. Although he was a bit happy, he still said, Business is more important. Let's listen. Sun Lang impatiently pushed open the window. What is it? Panji gave him a look like he was killing a chicken. Marshal, you should come out and say it. Come out and say it, damn it. Marshal, I can't leave. I can't leave. The opportunity is fleeting. I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to survive. Sun Lang glared and said, Why do I have to come out and say it? These girls are the same as you. They're all worthy of my trust. In this time of danger, they came to the capital and are in the same boat with me. Of course, they are worthy of my trust. What's there to hide? Just say it here. Panji had a subtle expression. Why the F***ck did I have to come here? If I knew this would happen, I would have let someone else say it. F***ck. After I say it, he will definitely put it on my account. He was still making a final struggle. It's not that I don't trust you. It's just Sun Lang sighed. Why didn't I realize you were so wishy-washy before? Forget it, forget it. Sooner or later, there will be a F***king commotion. Since you are so brave, just say it. He gathered his courage, but when he saw Sun Lang's appearance, out of fear and pity for this person, he restrained himself and made his words sound more tactful. His Majesty sent someone here. He said that he has something to discuss with Marshal. Sun Lang's patience was reaching its limit. He held his head and sighed. Get to the point. Panji made up his mind and shouted, The Emperor wants to marry his daughter to you. Chapter 1152. The Emperor wants to marry his daughter to you. The air suddenly froze. For Sun Lang, this moment could probably be listed as one of the 10 most terrifying moments of his life. And it was a rather high-ranking one. Time seemed to have stopped. No, it slowed down very, very slowly. At this moment, Sun Lang entered bullet time. Everything around him seemed to be lengthened, but his thinking speed was infinitely accelerated. As a warrior and a soldier, his reaction speed was extremely fast. It was an instinct that he had trained on the edge of life and death countless times. Clap. There was a crisp clap. Yin Luo and the others focused their gazes on him. The girls were also shocked by this explosive news. Their brains did not have time to make the corresponding orders. So that's how it is, Sun Lang said in an extremely decisive tone. His tone contained a sudden enlightenment, as if he was a philosopher who had finally figured out an incomparably difficult problem. He said decisively, Li Guanyuan is going to make a move on his daughter. Everyone was first shocked that Sun Lang dared to call the Emperor by his name, and then they were shocked that Empress Tensei, who had the Emperor's heart and the Emperor's favor, had provoked the Emperor's means. For a moment, they were all speechless. That's right, the two of them have already broken up. The Emperor previously granted Empress great privileges and power. In addition to the fact that Empress is willing to be his lackey, he can also use this to increase the prestige and power of the imperial family, manipulate Tensei province to disrupt the balance between the court and the public, and increase the imperial family's control over the imperial court. Sun Lang rubbed his chin and analyzed in a deep voice. His expression was solemn. In an instant, he transformed into a keyboard member of the Politburo, pointing out the country and displaying the demeanor of an important minister. And now, discord has already arisen between the two of them. The crown princess's attitude is wavering. This pair of father and daughter are no longer as close as before. With the emperor's suspicious nature, he will definitely not trust his daughter. With the crown princess's scheming nature, she may no longer have any illusions about her father. The relationship between the two of them will eventually break apart. It's not just a matter of time, it's also a matter of who will make the first move. After all, most of Empress's power came from the emperor. In an environment where the entire country was gathering the power of the military officials, she was still able to hold such great power, which was inseparable from the emperor's support. Now, if the emperor wants to do something to her, he only needs to take away her power. After all, Empress has already gained momentum. If we act too hastily, we will definitely be counterattacked. Already gained momentum. If we act too hastily, we will definitely be counterattacked. Sun Lang murmured and then suddenly shook his head. No, now is not the time to think about that. He continued to analyze. What the emperor wants to do now is to cut the meat with a soft knife and stew it slowly. Therefore, he has come up with a vicious plan. He pretends to say that he wants to marry Empress to me. In this way, he can set off a violent storm and make us unable to take care of ourselves. Only then can he take advantage of the situation. He suddenly turned around and looked at the girls in the carriage with pure and honest eyes. He said sincerely, "You see, Empress and I have a deep grudge against each other. There is no possibility of us working together. If the emperor wants to marry that woman to me, I will definitely resist and oppose fiercely. The same goes for Empress. She will definitely not marry me, or she will definitely be played to death by me. She will definitely resist fiercely. And the emperor wants to take away the power in Empress' hands. I also want to take advantage of the chaos to weaken Empress's power. Therefore, the emperor and I have a natural common interest. Empress wants to keep the power in her hands and doesn't want to marry me. After all, she hates me more than she hates the emperor, right? Therefore, she also wants to be close to her father. Look at this relationship. Who is the one who benefits the most and is the most comfortable? The emperor. This is obviously his plan. It is very vicious. In addition, the mountain forces in the imperial court don't know that Empress and I have a deep grudge against each other, and the conflict is irreconcilable. They now maintain a good relationship with Shinto province on the surface. They basically don't comment on what I do in the imperial court. It is because I have been attacking the emperor and the royal family from beginning to end, so they are happy to support me. But now that the news of the marriage is out, there is a possibility of me working together with Tensei province and even the royal family. How can they sit still? They will definitely use all kinds of methods, and their hostility will also be exposed. So, do you understand? The emperor's scheme is so vicious. It is really terrifying. When Sun Lang set up to hear, he already had a worried look on his face. By the way, this old bastard still has the intention of sowing discord. He didn't say it yesterday, the day before yesterday, and the day before yesterday. He waited until today to say it. Don't you think he is bad? He is very bad. He looked around at the girls in front of him, and his eyes revealed a gentle color. He said softly, "But this old dog didn't take this into account. He didn't take into account that you are all women who can see the big picture. You are intelligent and opinionated. You will never be sowed by such a lowly trick. You will support me as always and let me have no worries. This way, I will be able to face all demons and monsters head-on." His tone gradually became impassioned. Does the emperor think this plan is wonderful? Humph, he is too naive. Since we have seen through his scheme, we will not let this matter go according to his wishes. He wants to marry Empress Tensei to me. If he wants to sow discord and weaken his power, He will have to see if I agree or not. Listening to Sun Lang's long speech and watching Sun Lang's impassioned speech, Panji showed an embarrassed expression. His embarrassment was mixed with pity, and there was a trace of ridicule in his pity. He wanted to say something, but suddenly there was a noise behind him. A few eunuchs squeezed over with smiles on their faces. Before they got close, they shouted loudly, "Congratulations, General! Congratulations, General! Princess Pingyang is gentle, affectionate, and beautiful. She's a good match for you." Time froze again. The expression on Sun Lang's face was as frozen as a photograph. He looked at Panji. Panji also looked back at him. Why? He conveyed this message with his eyes. "I'm sorry." Panji responded with his eyes. "You only cared about explaining to the ladies just now and did not pay attention to my gestures and eyes at all." "Ah, ah." There was a long silence, and Sun Lang laughed awkwardly. "Is this interesting?" He turned his head stiffly and looked at the eunuchs who came over without knowing the truth. "What kind of JB is the emperor talking about?" Vulgar words. The eunuchs understood, and their expressions all changed. After all, the words emperor and JB had already appeared in the empire's vulgar language library. They were not even brought over by Sun Lang. Such words originally existed. Immediately, a fair-skinned eunuch did not come back to his senses. He shouted subconsciously, "How dare you!" Sun Lang leaned half of his body out of the carriage and looked at him expressionlessly. "What, did I say something wrong? Pingyang is my disciple, and the crown prince is also my disciple. In terms of seniority, I have to call the emperor big brother. I haven't even shown off how I talked and laughed with the late emperor in the imperial ancestral temple and treated him as an equal. This seniority is even higher. In short, the emperor wants to marry his daughter to his big brother and wants his daughter to marry the master. This is against human relations. Isn't this a beast? Who does he think I am? Little dragon man?" The eunuch had lived for so long, but he had never met anyone who dared to call the emperor a beast. For a moment, his whole body trembled. He was shocked and angry. Nonsense! Sun Lang looked at Panji. "Oh, it seems like the emperor sent him to die." Panji took over the conversation and said to the eunuchs whose expressions were changing, "Eunuchs, I told you to stay where you are. Why do you have to come over?" When the emperor and the general fight, others can't wait to avoid it. Only you dare to come forward. You still don't know who is sitting in the carriage, right? This is normal. The emperor deliberately wants to hide it from you and let you come to die. How would you know? The people sitting in the carriage are the general's confidants. You coming up to report this kind of good news. Aren't you deliberately making things worse? As soon as he finished speaking, Sun Lang looked at the sky and shook his head. With the weather today, it is impossible to pick a happy day. I didn't think it through. Let's let the sky be clean first. Everyone, when the emperor uses his methods, he's asking for a beating. If all of you come over, you're asking for death. He waved his hand. Tell the troops to quickly enter the city. Send a fast horseback and invite General Tensei to the manor for a meeting. We will quickly enter the city and find Pingyang. Chapter 1153. The carriage moved forward leisurely, and a strange atmosphere filled the carriage. Sun Lang sat at the table, his face as calm as water. The women were also silent. No one said anything. After a while, Inluo whispered, "That don't be afraid. I'm not angry." This sentence seemed to have loosened the frozen air, and the expressions of the others also became lively. Sun Lang's expression was slightly better, but he still shook his head. No. The girl thought for a moment and asked again, "That Princess Pingyang, what's the matter?" Lu Shujin said, "You heard it. She is Sun Lang's disciple, and has been for a long, long time. She is also Empress Tensei's sister, but her personality is very different from her sister. A long, long time ago, that was to say, another one who came first. Therefore, prequel characters were too annoying. They relied on the advantage of being first to add to the plot, lay down foreshadowing, and set up flags before the main story began. They even completed the early stages of the plot, making the later characters very passive. At this time, Yin Luo and Miss Zhao's feelings were probably like this: a subtle sense of powerlessness and displeasure. But soon, they had no time to feel powerless and displeased. Not only that, Sun Lang was silent for a moment and slowly revealed another secret. After the incident at the Great Desolate Mountain, I left. In order to find a fig leaf, the emperor fabricated a lie about the sword saint of the nation coming from the west and suppressing the Great Desolate Mountain. However, not everyone can play the role of the sword saint of the nation. All one needs to do is wear the armor. However, as the sword saint of the earth, one must obtain the approval of the Earth Luminosity Sacred Sword. In the past 2 years, the one who played the role of the sword saint of the nation was Ping Yang. Everyone was surprised. Lu Shujin frowned and said, "Wait, the emperor wants to marry Princess Ping Yang to you. Who will play the role of the sword saint?" Sun Lang casually said, "Oh, I haven't talked about that yet." Not long ago, in the palace, under the watchful eyes of everyone, the sword saint sacrificed himself to remove the sword mark left by the wood's sacred sword and healed His Majesty's injury. You can say that he is very loyal. The amount of information in these words was really too much, especially for Yin Luo and young Miss Zhao, who didn't understand the situation in the capital. They were simply confused as they listened. Wait a minute. You said that the sword sage of the nation was you, and then you said that Princess Ping Yang pretended to be the sword sage of the nation, and then you said that the sword sage of the nation died in the palace. You also said that His Majesty was pretending to be injured. Then why did the sword saint of the nation put on such an act? Yin Luo stretched out his 10 fingers and gestured back and forth with a confused look on his face. He was extremely adorable. Isn't that simple? Zhao Yunlong, who was known for his intelligence and high IQ, immediately replied, "Why did he have to put on such an act? He must have been forced into a corner by Sun Lang and died on the spot." Sun Lang smiled proudly. Correct. The two of them looked at each other and revealed a sneaky expression of having made a fortune in silence. Then they high-fived each other and breathed in joy, looking very proud of themselves. Yin Luo began to count his fingers again. Wait. The fire sword saint died in front of you. Hikari Kinsei went crazy in front of you. The wood sword saint became an assassin and a rebel. It was also related to you. The earth sword saint was also forced to die by you. And Sun Lang raised his hand and said, "And the gold sword saint, I was the one who sent him off. The 7 luminary sword saint was completely ruined by you." Not yet, Lu Shujin said lightly at this time. "Isn't there still the moon sword saint?" Then she added, "The moon sword saint, Wei Wangshu, is the famous jade wheel sword saint. Her face is like the moon and her temperament is like that of fairy. She is famous for her beauty in the 6 armies of Heaven Yuan. By the way, she is Hikari Kensei's sister. In my opinion, it is only a matter of time before she falls into Sun Lang's hands." Everyone's eyes turned back to Sun Lang. Sun Lang said with a sullen expression, "Lu, why are you slandering me? How did she fall into my hands? I have no interest in her at all." Master Lu sneered and analyzed. "You said that Hikari Kensei suddenly went crazy when he was chopping you. Since he went crazy and killed people in front of you, how could you let go of such a great opportunity? You will definitely jump up and down and label him as a first-class criminal, forcing the martial arts hall to nail this crime to death. With you here, who in the imperial court would dare to plead for Wei Shihe's forgiveness? With this crime, Wei Shihe will at least be crippled of his cultivation and robbed of his sword. If Wei Wangshu wants to save his brother, wouldn't he have to send himself to your doorstep?" This analysis was reasonable and very convincing. Yin Luo and the others understood Sun Lang's temperament very well. This guy was someone who refused to be taken advantage of. Even if he was unreasonable, he would still stir up trouble. If he was in the right, he would definitely stir up trouble. Things like imprisoning his elder brother and torturing his younger sister. He was completely capable of doing it. Sun Lang was just about to defend himself when Master Lu said, "Who knows? He might have already run to Wei Shihe to show off in front of him." He even took advantage of him verbally. General Shansei said angrily, "You are deliberately looking for trouble. Annie Lu, you are my personal doctor. Don't you understand my character? Am I the kind of person who would make mistakes in lifestyle? Everyone is talking about serious matters now. Don't pester endlessly. Do you know what I mean?" Annie Lu had always been unique. She wasn't like Zhao Yunlong and Shui Baochai, who were obedient to Sun Lang. She wasn't used to Sun Lang's bad habits. Instead, she took pleasure in bickering with him. When she heard this, she raised her eyebrows and was about to speak. Immediately, Sun Lang's voice transmission echoed in her ears. "In a few days, Xia Wei will bring the demon sword over. There's a nagging sword spirit living in the sword. If you continue to bicker, I can't guarantee what will happen when the time comes." The demon transformation of Keidu was the most important turning point in Lu Shuren's life. The personality that was forcefully separated from her was also a past that she found difficult to face. This matter was already troublesome enough. If Sun Lang, who was deliberately causing trouble, was added into the mix, even Annie Lu would feel an extreme headache. She snorted resentfully and didn't speak anymore. "Damn it, I can't deal with you," Sun Lang said fiercely in his heart. Then, he secretly let out a sigh of relief. The matter of Wei Wangshu, that woman, should also be dealt with. Otherwise, she would come to me every 2 or 3 days to hint at me to make a deal with her. Even if I'm unyielding, it's easy for my reputation to be damaged. He sorted out his thoughts and continued. "Let's talk about Ping Yang again. Ping Yang has been the country's sword saint for 2 years and has been used by the emperor. After I returned to the capital, the first thing I did was to deal with this matter. I released Ping Yang from the shackles of the country's sword saint and also left the emperor with no cards to play. Who would have thought that he would use the matter of pretending to be injured to beat them at their own game? He directed a good show of the country's sword saint being used as a weapon. It can be said that he slightly evened out the disadvantage. Now, he even came up with the idea of bestowing a marriage. I'm afraid that he's still targeting his own daughter. It's said that the imperial family has no familial love. But when Li Guangyuan is cold-blooded and ruthless, he's worse than a beast. I've seen it for myself." Speaking to this point, his tone was incomparably cold and murderous. These words were said in a very general manner and very slyly concealed some details. For example, it was the emperor who had taken the initiative to bestow Princess Ping Yang to Sun Lang's side. And at the time, Sun Lang had accepted without a second word. But this did not prevent Yin Luo and the others from understanding. "No wonder you were in such a hurry to find that Princess Ping Yang and also wanted to invite the Empress to the manor to discuss matters." Yin Luo said quietly, "It looks like that Princess Ping Yang is either too filial or she doesn't have a mind of her own. Thus, she is unable to refuse the Emperor's request," Sun Lang said. "It's both." Yin Luo nodded and said, "Oh, you are her teacher. She is very filial, so she respects and loves you very much. She also doesn't have a mind of her own, so she will do whatever her teacher says, right?" Sun Lang almost choked on his own saliva. "Hey!" Yin Luo snorted softly. There were some things that, although she understood, she was still unhappy. But it sounds like she's not a difficult person to get along with. She gave Sun Lang a meaningful smile. "We'll see her soon, right?" That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.